The Browns, they're putrid. They're the worst team in the NFL.
The season, the 2024 season is over.
Lamar Jackson can't win the playoffs. He'll win a third MVP, though, so that's great.
Drew Sample is the most important piece of the Bengals offense next year.
Go Joe Burrow. He deserves to be MVP. I wish he was the Browns quarterback. Kind of mean that.
If you're looking for the most reactionary, silly, and unserious show on the internet, then you're home. Live from Hamilton, Ohio, it's Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Well, really sorry. It's not a clown-free Wednesday. Clown Court is back in session, boys. Welcome in. Happy Wednesday. Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kenner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, and Jacob Tissett with you here. Guys, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good.
How are we doing? I'm good. I'm great.
I'm a little tired. My flight got in a little late. I was in Chicago yesterday.
Yeah.
Very tired.
Yeah,
That's right.
I'm very, very tired.
That's right.
I like this bit.
This is good.
You know,
This is good stuff.
yeah, you know. I didn't go night until, really late last night. But, it is what it is,
Elliot's vibes are high.
I slept on my
Are they?
left. I slept.
Clean shaven, fresh cut.
Hey, I
vibes are
slept-
never higher.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, they're decently high, I suppose.
You look good. You look
Wow,
good. The
thank you.
haircut,
House of the Dragons.
fresh cut.
House of the Dragons, plural. So that's up on the hat there, and yeah, it was good. It feels good outside. So last night
Phenomenal.
I went for a little drive around midnight, and I was just cruising around, and it felt great. It was like, I think it got down to like 50 degrees, 55 degrees, something like that.
Reds game was over in like 4 innings last night.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Whenever it's, you know what? If the Reds are going to be bad or mediocre, just end it early.
That's right.
End those games real early. 1 inning, 2 innings, 3 innings max, and then we'll all be happy.
Well, the bottom line is you got a fresh cut,
Yeah.
freshly shaven face. I like that. But your arm, you look buff, dude. Have you been working out? Like, I feel like you've been doing some like push-ups or something. Like, what's going on, dude?
Yeah, I tried to do some push-ups last night. Every
A
time.
lot of push-ups.
So I thought of that bit. Right around right after the second inning when they were up 4-1.
That's right.
And then I waited until I think the next spurt of runs. I'm like, you know what? Let's just tweet it. Let's see what happens there. It probably wasn't a good idea on my part because then they just scored 10. But at the end of the day, you know what? If I have to do 25 push-ups to will the Reds to victories, that's what I'll do.
How many of the promised 250 push-ups did you do?
Like 30.
Okay.
But I'll tell you
That's
what,
fine.
the 30 were really good. I felt a burn after 4.
Oh, that's right.
After
Yeah,
about 4 of them, I felt a real good, solid burn.
That's good. You said you felt yourself getting stronger.
Yeah, I thought that
In
was
real
actually,
time.
I thought I was developing superhuman abilities after like the 3rd push-up.
So I feel like you owe it to the fans to continue on with your push-ups. Like I think you still owe us all of those. We won't make you do them all in one night or one sitting. But I mean, you want to do a couple more?
No, I'm good. No disrespect to the floor in this room, but legit, I wouldn't have my worst enemy sit on this floor. So, no, I think that's okay. I think we're good.
I wouldn't make my worst enemy sit on this floor.
I mean, it's filthy. It's disgusting. But, teach their own.
Do you think that if the Reds started doing push-ups after every run, that they would get better at hitting the ball?
We'd get more power.
They get more power, certainly.
Well, that would require David Bell holding them accountable, making them do push-ups
Of
after
course.
giving up a run. He
That's
should.
right.
That's why I want him fired, dude. He doesn't hold them accountable at all.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Fire David Bell. Let's go. No, we're not doing that today. We
I
are
think we
not.
should- I think we should do it
I
today.
almost guarantee we will do
No,
that today.
we are not doing
Well, it
that
depends
today.
how long we talk about the Reds. Because if you talk about the Reds longer than 7 minutes, then you have to talk about David Bell. If you talk about David Bell, you have to talk about firing him.
So, like before the show started, and I feel like we're going to ask this question a lot in the final month and some change of the season, because I don't think it's going to go any further than a month and some change at this point. But what the hell was that last night? Simply, like, we're going to ask this question a lot. But what the hell was that? It wasn't even 5 or 6 games ago that this team was plus 54 run differential. And again, not everything's about run differential, but it is something to look at when you look at just how poorly this team has played. Not as of late in just a short span of time. Like it hasn't even been like a month. I could see if over a month, you start to lose a little bit of that, run differential. But they've done this in 6 games, plus 54 run differential. They're at plus 26 right now. They've cut that in half in 5 or 6 games. That's impressive stuff. And the problem is they did that in 5 games. What are they going to do with the remaining 30 plus games that they have remaining on the schedule? This is getting pretty damn ugly.
Yeah, just keep chipping away. just keep chipping away, I guess. And we were saying that a couple months ago about the wild card standings, and now I guess we're chipping away at that run differential. So why give the fans anything positive to hold on to? We might as well just rip it all out from under them.
Yep. The sooner this dies, the better for all of us. So let my hope go. Be 30 games under 500, and we'll be on to 2025. I'm fine with it. I've moved on from it. I'm at peace. I'm at peace with the Reds 2024 season. I did find it funny how David just whenever he has a bad feeling about any game, it's immediately over. Whenever he has that little gut feeling, no matter really what the score is, after it was 4-1, David decided, you know what? Carson Spiers is going to throw as many pitches as I want him to pitch tonight, no matter how bad he looks. He was just a batting tee last night. You know what? 15 hits, 17 hits. Who cares? It's just going to be a loss. We'll forfeit that one in, and we're on to the next game.
I do think it's important to give David Bell credit where it's due. He made a lineup decision last night, a lineup switch last night that caused the umpires to meet for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
No one in the stadium had any clue what the substitutions were except for David Bell, and that's why he's an all-star. And that's why he's the fearless leader of my team, because he does that. He does 8-man switches to put
Correct.
Luke Maile on the mound better than anyone else in the sport. I mean, no one else is bringing in Stuart Fairchild and Will Benson off the bench and moving Spencer Steer to the infield. I mean, that's just big brain stuff that no one else has the capabilities to do.
And it started a comeback a little bit.
That's right. Yeah,
They almost came all the way back.
And you put a perfect pitcher on the mound. What more could you ask for?
No, yeah. Here's the thing about Luke Maile. Though he might not give you what you want at the plate, what he can do behind the plate, what he can do on the mound is well worth a major league contract.
He probably has the best 55-mile-per-hour slider with no run of anyone in the sport.
I think you're right about that. We'd have to double check it, but I'm almost certain Luke Maile is the greatest pitcher in the Reds organization. And I think you should look to extend him, and maybe, just maybe, he can be the new Graham Ashcraft.
Well, if Blandino can do it, why can't Maile?
That's true. I agree. Let's
Maile
go
already has
Reds.
Major League innings
Let's
under
go
his belt.
Reds.
I'm all the way back in.
Let's go. You just sold me back.
Hunter Green IL, perfect time for ace Luke Maile.
Luke Maile.
That's right.
How many innings in a row do you think we'll see a Luke Maile? Because I think this is what? This is 4 innings of work in a week?
Yeah.
So let's see. Do you think he gets to 10 innings this season?
I think so.
Maybe 20?
By the end of the week?
I think he gets to 10 innings.
There's a chance Luke Maile puts in a run for Cy Young. It's a non-zero chance at that. Like, people were real impressed with Paul Skeens. Wait till a backup catcher gets on the mound and throws 40 innings of scoreless baseball. Bet Paul Skeens couldn't do that.
I mean, Shohei Ohtani's taking notes over there
right.
as far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
But by the way, so Spiers, just over 4 innings of work, 13 hits, 9 earned runs. But, man, he struck out 3, though. Only walked 2.
That's right.
Not bad. That's a hell of a line, though. 13 hits in 4 innings. 13 hits in 4 innings, 9 runs in 4 innings. Now, I know some of those were charged back to him, but, I mean, you're a big, starting pitcher Spiers kind of guy, though.
That's right. Yeah, I always have been. Yeah, no, it's every time he goes out there, it seems like he should maybe be in the pen. So, I think the dream hope for Carson Spiers is Nick Martinez someday, be a low 2s guy out of the pen, but get some bulk innings when you have a starter or that doesn't go late or you're using an opener or something like that. I think that's the Spiers role, but injuries and whatever else have forced him to be a starter. And honestly, he's done
a serviceable job.
A serviceable job.
Lately.
I don't want to kill the guy. He add Carson Spiers to the long list of names that are being asked to do something that they shouldn't be asked to do this season.
Yeah. I don't have ill will towards anybody. I don't have ill will towards Levi, Jordan, any of the guys that have been brought up at some point during this season and didn't perform well.
The one I still will die for is Connor Capel.
Connor Capel was your guy.
He had
4 at-bats?
4 at-bats.
Did he get a hit in those 4
I think
at-bats?
so.
I think he had a hit in those 4
Him and
at-bats
Reese Hines.
too. So
2 hottest debuts ever.
Yeah, it's Reese Hines. People forget he's not on the team yet. The Reds couldn't use that one good week.
But it's against the Marlins and whoever else.
Yeah, the Rockies. He strikes out a lot, so he's not good enough to be on the team. I don't know.
Billy.
Yeah. So, I don't know. We'll see. I'm not mad. I watched the game last night, and then, well, kind of. And then I after that, it was like just the same thought I've had for about a month now, where it's, I know what the team is. They're not very good. And when Hunter Green isn't on the roster due to injury, it's really noticeable that this just isn't a team. We came into the season thinking Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, Andrew Abbott and Graham Ashcraft were the big four. They were going to carry the way. Graham Ashcraft, quarter of the way through the season, he couldn't throw 5 innings of baseball. Wasn't very good. 60-day IL. Andrew Abbott has been good up until lately. Nick Lodolo has been on the IL twice. His ERA is at 4.6. And Hunter Green has been obviously a Cy Young caliber pitcher this season, but unfortunately he just went down. And offensively, they just haven't been the team that we all thought they would be. So, yeah, it's disappointing. It's disappointing in these blowout losses. I'm hoping they stop at some point because it is embarrassing to get blown out so many times in so little days. I just hope they're at least competitive, and if they're not competitive, then end the games early.
So here's the problem that I have with the Reds right now is because the reason I haven't been able to get on board with you and others who have basically kind of given up on the season, about a month ago or, a lot earlier is because the way that people had talked down on this team is as if they had been watching this team get blown out the way we've seen as of late. The reason I had never completely given up on the Cincinnati Reds is because the fact that they were extremely competitive and they were winning enough games to remain in the hunt. I know 4.5 at the time, 6.5 back just seems, so much. I mean, they're not coming. I have no faith that they're coming back from this at this point. But 4.5, I still was believing because there were a lot of competitive aspects about this team that I'm like, well, if they can go on a run because of their pitching, they can go on a run because there's still enough in that weak lineup. There's still enough to be interesting. There's still enough with Jonathan India, Tyler Stevenson, Elly De La Cruz, Spencer Steer, TJ Friedel. There's still enough there. That's enough. You can get enough from those guys, complemented by the good starting pitching, enough to keep me invested. But right now, what I'm seeing over this last stretch of games, which is wild because they won that 4 straight, right? They sweep the Cardinals, and then they get outscored 28-3 against Kansas City. Obviously, they win that first game against Toronto, but then another blowout loss last night. Guys, it's not just about the losses anymore. It's that, that whole, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Well, it's not that you lost, it's how you lost. There's a reason I hadn't given up on the Reds, even when they were, so inconsistent. It's because even when they were losing, it wasn't like they were losing and getting pummeled. Like, you saw enough that they could hang with teams. You saw enough that they weren't going to go on long losing streaks. But now when they lose, they look like they don't belong on the field with some of these teams, and that's the problem. That's why I've kind of checked out at this. Not really checked out, but kind of given up on the playoff hopes. I'm going to remain checked in on this team because I still want to watch Elly. I still, want to see Jonathan India, Tyler Stevenson, guys like that continue to play well. But man, oh man, you're not going to keep the fan base. There was enough of a divide there when they were winning a couple, losing a couple, within a few games of a playoff spot. That's how you kept people invested. But this is a good way to just totally not just lose faith for the rest of this year, but now you're back to the drawing board on how you regain faith heading into next year. Because that's what was great about this season was, I remember being at Great American Ballpark on opening day with Nick Kirby and Trace Fowler. We did our opening day show out there. There was just a buzz. There was an excitement. There was an energy. And I'm like, man, this is going to be a fun season. This is going to be cool. The Reds have a lot of work to do, not just so much about trying to make the rest of the season interesting. They have a lot of work to do in the offseason so that fans like me and Elliot, Jacob, Casey, and others can go to Great American Ballpark on opening day next year and feel like that we're trending towards something. Because right now, if this continues for the next month and some change, people are going to just go back to where they were a year and a half ago and just be at ground zero when it comes to expectations and optimism for the future of this team. And that includes a team that has an Elly De La Cruz and a Hunter Green on it.
Yeah, look, in May and June, we talked about the whole time that the pitching's been phenomenal and the bats have stunk, and eventually the bats will find their level, and hopefully that happens before the pitching falls off. Well, the bats really never came back.
No.
They got better than they were in May and the beginning of June, for sure, but they were never great. And then now we're seeing, whether it's because of injuries, which for the most part it has been, even Lodolo's last few, we can just point back to when he went on the IL with the blister for the exact starting point of when he started to fall off. The pitching we knew at some point was gonna not be the best in the league. These guys are throwing more innings. Lodolo's already thrown more innings this year than he's ever thrown in his career. Andrew Abbott, we saw last year, he hit a wall at the end of the year, so we could have kind of projected that to come as well. The thing is now that the bats are back to somewhat where they were back then, and the pitching is worse, and that's why we're starting to see the blowouts come in. And the real painful thing with how hard these last few games have been to watch is you could have seen it coming a little bit.
Yeah,
you really could have seen it coming a little bit. If Hunter Green's not a Cy Young caliber pitcher, he had a below .5 ERA across 4 starts, and he went 2-0.
Yeah,
we didn't even win those 4 games. Like at some point, when you need Cy Young caliber pitching to go 500. The bar is so low for what it requires for you to get blown out.
That's a good, we talk so much about the individual stats that we forget. And, in baseball, it's not like other sports where you immediately connect the win-loss record with that, right? But at the same time, you're right. In those 4 starts, those should be almost expected, or just, hey, I'm not going to lose sleep tonight. I know we got the W tonight. It's some of the other starters in the rotation. But you're right, 2 wins and 4 dominant outings like that. That's the makeup of the season. It's just 500 ball, and now it's falling well below that.
I hear our old friend Jimmy talk about when his Cy Young candidate Tariq Skubal comes on the mound, he's incredibly confident that the Tigers are going to win the game. When Hunter Green goes on the mound, I'm incredibly confident Hunter Green's going to allow less than 2 runs.
Yeah.
Certainly doesn't mean the Reds are going to win the game.
No.
And that's very unique for a Cy Young caliber pitcher to not have faith in winning the ballgame.
Yeah, I mean, last year gave us a bunch of hope, and this season just kicked us right off the horse, and we're all the way on the ground. And maybe next year we're going to have a little bit of a lighter look, but it doesn't change the fact that this fan base is hungry for any kind of success whatsoever. It sucks that it didn't happen this year. If it doesn't happen next year, then I'm going to start to panic. And honestly, if it doesn't happen next year, if there was ever a towel to be thrown in, it would be then. Yep. I don't mean to disrespect any of the guys that we have. I believe in the core as of today. But next year, if we're dealing with the same injuries, if we're having the same problems, if CES is still the worst qualified player in baseball when he's up here, if Noelvi Marte is still on the juice, then I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what we got outside of Elly De La Cruz and Hunter Green, which are 2 very, very good things.
All right, well, the Reds wrap up the series with Toronto tonight, and then, of course, they'll have a Pittsburgh team, a Pirates team for 4 at Pittsburgh, and the battle for last place will be a good one as far as that's concerned in the Central. But, yes, has not been pretty as of late. 5 games have totally just made the whole fan base just disappear at this point. 4 of the last 5 games, they have lost by at least 6 runs, 6 or more in most of those. It has not been pretty, no doubt. All right. We'll get into more Reds talk coming up later on in the show. We do have some college football stuff that we'll get into around the corner. Week 0, college football officially kicks off this coming up weekend. But Anthony Schlegel, former Ohio State Buckeye, he's going to come on, and we'll talk college football playoff expectations and just college football as a whole. We'll be joined by him coming up around the corner. We'll get to Elliot's headlines when we come back. Plus, we want to talk about, we've seen college football games be played in some really cool venues and MLB ballparks and others, but what's a spot that you've yet to see a football game be played that you would love to see a football game be played? We'll get to all of that coming up. More Off the Bench next. All right, and we are back. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett with you here on a Wednesday. It's Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. We'll be joined by Anthony Schlegel, former Ohio State Buckeye, coming up here around the corner. We'll have a Bengals camp update and some Bengals talk coming up around the corner as well. Plenty more, a lot of football coming up here in just a little bit. But before we get to all of that, let's cue them up. We got Elliot's headlines.
Whoa.
Elliot loves 3 things: Joey Votto, David Bell, and leading off the bench with top headlines.
It's true. I love most of those things now. Maybe not all 3. The Reds, they've lost their momentum from Monday's win. They fall 10-3 to the Blue Jays, as we just discussed in that last segment. The Blue Jays have hit their season high 5 home runs in 1 game. So I'm glad we could help them accomplish that. George Springer had 2 home runs. Kirk, Horwitz, and Jimenez also added 1 apiece. Carson Spiers, as we mentioned, terrible. 9 earned runs, 13 hits in 4 innings. He did strike out 3 guys. Woo! India, he had 2 hits. Elly had a triple, and Marte had 2 hits. Marte also had an error that cost a run, so whatever. Those were the notable offensive achievements from last night's 10-3 loss. Luke Maile, as we mentioned, pitched 2 scoreless innings. His ERA remains at 0-0. The Reds and Blue Jays have the rubber match tonight. Nick Martinez takes on Yariel Rodriguez. Martinez has a 3.25 ERA and a 1.05 whip. Martinez has been phenomenal. And Rodriguez has a 3.93 ERA and a 1.29 whip. Around the league, the Dodgers hang on to beat the Mariners 6-3. Jason Heyward delivered a 3-run pinch hit home run in the 8th as the Dodgers rally from 3-0 down early in the game. The White Sox, they lose yet again. Robbie Ray struck out 9 of them, and the Giants win 4-1. The Rays shut out the A's 1-0. Padres hold on to beat the Twins 7-5. Royals fall to the Angels 9-5. That's their first loss in 6 days. The Red Sox win 6-5 as Duran goes 4 for 4 with the tie-breaking home run in the 8th. The Pirates, they shut out the Rangers 4-0. Cubs take care of the Tigers 3-1. This is a fun one. Brewers ace Frankie Montas pitched 7 innings of 1 hit shutout baseball against the Cardinals last night. They won 3-2. Frankie Montas, very good with the Brewers. Braves beat the Phillies 3-1. Guardians and Yankees played the longest game of the season last night, and the Guardians hang on to win 9-5 in 12 innings. Diamondbacks beat the Marlins, but the story of the Marlins is that this afternoon we have Johnny Cueto returning to Major League action, 38 years young, and he will be starting for the Miami Marlins tonight. Good luck to Johnny Cueto. NFL news, Pete Carroll is returning to USC to coach, or I think it's to teach a class. So he will be teaching a class at USC. Good for him. Brian Flores has come out and said that Tua's words hit very hard, and he has evolved as a head coach. Brian Flores.
Johnny Cueto is starting
very
for
sad.
the Angels.
Angels, sorry. I'm sorry about that. Starting for the Angels. Former Marlin, Johnny Cueto.
Marlins legend.
Aaron Rodgers said the Jets camp this year was one of the most taxing of his career. Was he there the whole time?
He was like 2 days.
I feel like he missed a week and a half, but could be wrong. CeeDee Lamb is having promising talks with the Cowboys on getting a deal done.
According to Jerry.
According to Jerry.
Who buried the chances of re-signing CeeDee like a month ago. So,
Yeah, well.
Who knows?
That's it. Headlines. What a special day.
It is a special day. It is a special.
I wish I had more headlines, but there was no more headlines. I tried to come up with a couple stats about the Reds, but they all just made me sad.
It's a sad time to be a Reds fan. Look, I've been trying to keep you on the optimism train for a while, but I'm not going to do that to you anymore. I'm on your side as far as that's concerned. We'll get to the college football stuff. Anthony Schlegel going to join us coming up here in about 20 minutes, so we'll get to that coming up around the corner. But I don't know if you guys had a chance to see this. How many of you have YouTube TV? Do you have YouTube TV?
I don't. I did in college, but I don't have it anymore.
What about you?
Nope, I have Spectrum.
Spectrum. Okay, so what do you
Truly
guys?
a truly terrible service.
Are you
one of the worst?
Internet? Yeah, it's the full package. NFL Sunday Ticket is coming to the Apple App Store, and you can get it for the low price of $679, $739 if you want the Red Zone. Like, do you guys subscribe to the Sunday Ticket at all?
Oh yeah, every year.
I did.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Well, I did when I was in college, and I still had the little promo code, or I still had the college discount. And I think they've raised the prices a lot since then. So I've not done it recently, but I do have on my TV. We do have a part of our Spectrum deal was that we get Red Zone. So
not bad. But I see people complaining about the price of this. But it's significantly cheaper if you have YouTube TV, correct? Like, because that's where it's pretty much made available. Not exclusively, but like
I'm not entirely sure what the YouTube TV price is, but yeah, it's still $100. It's $120 for a student.
Really?
Yeah. So and your student email, my student email will work for another 4 or 5 years. So I'll keep buying that $120.
Well, then maybe I'll try it.
No wonder you have that. You have the lack of. And what's okay? I don't feel bad for the common folk out there that don't have that Alabama.edu email.
Well, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, they could charge whatever they want, and I'm going to buy Red Zone. If there's only one way I can watch Red Zone, I'm going to pay whatever they ask.
But yeah, that's significantly high.
It's ridiculous.
I have, I may or may not have a little app that I still get all the NFL games. Significantly cheaper.
I had a heart attack on Saturday night when Stream East got taken down. But
Stream East was seized.
They found no.
It was a fake season?
StreamEast.to was seized. .xyz and .app are both still active.
Oh.
So we're still good. We're still cooking. Big news to still have those alive because that's how I watch everything.
Casey, you a YouTube TV guy? Well, what's your network of choice?
No, I just use the different streaming apps like ESPN, and I guess I use Spectrum, their Spectrum app for like the local television, like Fox and anything that's local. But I try to use just whatever, like Fox Sports or the Peacock or whatever to watch all my other stuff.
All right, fair enough. So that obviously doesn't impact anyone in here whatsoever. But when I saw that number, I'm like, man, like luckily, so we on Sundays, like we have a group of friends every weekend. Like, I'll have it this weekend. Everyone comes over to watch the games. The next weekend, another friend of ours, will kind of host, and it just kind of rotates each weekend. So that helps having friends that have it. So I don't even have to really worry about it as far as that's concerned. Nonetheless, other headlines too, just continuing to add here. Did you see Oklahoma State on the back of their helmets will be QR codes?
That's right.
And the QR code, when you scan that, and it'll take you to their NIL website so that people can donate to their NIL.
I think it's a great idea.
You make a tackle, I'm going to give you $10.
If Ohio State had it, Quinshon Judkins bust a touchdown run. Here's 20.
God, what a strange time we live in. I think I'm not anti players getting money, but this at some point I want to watch a football game. I don't need QR codes on the back of helmets and having somebody I know at the bar run up to a TV, take a quick screenshot. Hey guys, donated 50. It's like I don't need it.
I'm a big fan of me being able to pay the players.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. That's fine. It's
when I drive to Kentucky,
how far is this going to go? How far are we going to
so much further than we can even think.
I know, and that's what's like. You're taken away from a little bit. Like the NFL doesn't do that nonsense. I know they actually get paid and they're professionals, but my God,
I'm going to drive to Kentucky and I'm going to place college football player prop bets, and if they hit, I'm going to give those boys a cut.
What about when a kicker misses shanks a 20-yarder?
Jaden Fielding owes me so much money.
Can I scan a QR code and request money from him?
You should be able to. I'm pro that.
When does this line get so blurry? It's like we're not even playing football anymore. This is just some weird video game that we're just watching.
See, and people make such a big deal about sports betting and sports gambling that how mean people get on social media when you have a parlay or you have a bet on a team and a kicker misses a kick late in the game or a quarterback doesn't show up and play well, wide receiver drops a pass that would have won the game, and the amount of hate and vitriol that those guys get on social media when you bet on them. But I mean, what do you think the reaction is going to be so when you think of NIL, you think of the business side as far as just the business and corporate sponsorships, but this is a little bit different. If Jacob, who says he likes paying the players directly, you're passionate about Ohio State or Alabama or whatever you're associated with, so you're going to donate money or you're going to scan that QR code and you're going to pay your own money. But then when that player bails on the team, that player does not play well, he does not start, he ends up not being very good. And maybe not you won't do this, but I just feel like that's going to be more problematic for social media reaction when fans start buying players and then they feel like they have ownership in them and then feel like, what the hell's going on? Why are you not performing at a level that I bought you for? It's going to get very weird, I think, from this standpoint, because this is not the corporate sponsorship side of NIL that I think we were all expecting. This is that weird, murky stuff that I think makes people uncomfortable, kind of like what you were talking about, Elliot.
Well, I feel like people have such a big issue with the gambling thing, and you can't gamble on college athletes because it's putting pressure on it, and they're getting death threats, which I'm fine with. I agree with. I don't think college kids should have the pressure of some degenerate 40-year-old sitting in his parents' basement, that weight on their shoulders. But at the same time, if you have a bunch of people and you're basically, in this case, advertising to pay that player whenever they do something good, then yeah, they're going to start getting upset when the player starts playing poorly in the next game or what happens. And then what happens? Are they going to ask for their money back? Are they going to go protest at the campus? I don't know. There's a bunch of crazy people in this world, and I think this opens the door to the crazies. I think it's going to make money for Oklahoma State. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think they're going to get a ton of people, ton of 40-year-olds in their basements running up to the TVs, scanning that QR code. Here's $25. Score a touchdown for me. And it's just like it's just not sports. It's just not what it's about.
Speaking of protests, what a wild weekend or what a wild day in Chicago it was, by the way. Oh man, what a wild day it was yesterday.
I mean, how did we bring?
What do you want me to do with that?
What was the segue for that? What was
Nothing.
like? You were just like, you know what?
I just got a kick out of yesterday.
DNC.
I credit the people. Yesterday, I was very curious. Jumped in for a little bit to watch. And shout out to Reed. Reed does a great job. I appreciate when he steps in, by the way. But yeah, I was apparently at rehab yesterday. Apparently I was at the DNC convention. People thought I was in Chicago. So I'm just, I'm playing along.
That's right.
I'm playing along. I was actually, by the way,
what was the music performance at the DNC yesterday?
Oh, get Lil Jon, just saying, yeah.
Lil Jon.
Yeah.
But no, where I really was yesterday, by the way, I mean, I've never once pretended to be a good golfer, and my God, I am bad. And yesterday was the first time at a golf event where I got paid to be the worst golfer there. The highest
Very
score,
nice.
the highest score I had the highest score there, and I got a payout.
That's awesome.
I was very, very happy about that as far as
You
that's
start
concerned.
playing in those golf tournaments.
I mean, I can't tell if it was charity. I'm not really sure. I mean, I had a little hole in my shirt. Maybe they felt bad for me. I don't really know
Was it
what
an outing?
happened. Yeah.
So let me ask you this: how many people at your outing cheat? Were there any cheaters yesterday?
So this was a Buckeye outing.
Integrity. There was integrity there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a Michigan outing. I mean,
Yeah.
my God. I mean, a lot of integrity at this one. I mean, if it was Michigan, everyone would be cheating, and But no, I was on Mike Doss's team, Keith Byers' team, Team Scarlet. They came away victorious, but I didn't really care. It was $120. I gave him my $120, knowing I was not going to get any of it back. But little did I know, $27.50 came back to old Kenner over here for having the highest score.
Look at that.
What a
Would you
bargain.
look at that? Yeah. I
What
mean,
a
I'm not even
bargain.
going to try and get better. I'm only going to golf once a year, and it's going to be at this golf outing. It pays to stink.
But you were still negative on the day.
Oh, God, it was bad, dude. It was so bad.
Yeah.
From money to just overall performance to Mike Doss looking at the scorecard, trying to figure out how his team lost. And I'm like, I kind of have an idea. I might know who's responsible.
Did you have did they use any of your shots?
No, it wasn't a scramble.
Oh, it wasn't a
It
scramble?
wasn't a scramble.
It was
And
just-
that's what led to the big argument
I
between
see.
Doss and Byers got into it because I guess it was you take the 3 top scores, I guess, on all the par 4s and par 3s. So par 5s had nothing to do with it. I don't know. I stayed out of it. Like I said, I had no dog in the fight. I'm not, I knew the only role I played was probably holding my team back.
I see.
You guys know how I do with that, right?
No, I'm not gonna beat you down, Kenner. I'm not gonna listen to the chat. I'm gonna fire you up. You're a good golfer, despite winning worst golfer of the year award or whatever you won yesterday. Don't listen to that.
$27.50.
Don't listen to that $27. What is it? $27.50. Don't listen to that $27.50.
$27.50.
Don't skimp him on his 50.
Yeah, you're a good golfer.
Yep, a great golfer. So, all right. Last thing on that QR code thing as we go back to that. I know you just gave me the. We'll step away for a few moments because I want to get to this coming up. The QR code thing. It's weird to do that for the college level, right? Like especially if fans are just paying directly. Okay, you have a problem with it. You said you have no problem with it, right? You have no problem if you pull up that QR code, Jacob, and you give your hard-earned money to that NIO Collective to pay the players, right?
I'm an active donor to multiple NIL collectives.
Good for you, dude.
Yeah.
Like, good for you. So, what is preventing a Major League Baseball, NBA, NFL, what is preventing ownerships in pro sports from kicking the tires on doing a similar thing, taking advantage of the passion and the fandom of the fans? Let's discuss that when we come back. It's Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We'll be joined by Anthony Schlegel, former Ohio State Buckeye. We'll talk all things college football coming up around the corner. But what is preventing professional sports from going down that route? There will be people like me that mock that. I think it's absolutely silly. But the bottom line is there are people out there, and I'm not necessarily mocking them, but there are people out there that feel so passionate about their team, that love their team so much, that they would, without a shadow of a doubt, would definitely donate their own money to Mike Brown to say, get this damn Jamar Chase deal done, right? There would be a lot of Reds fans who would donate a lot of their own hard-earned money to say, keep Elly De La Cruz in Cincinnati for the rest of his life, right? Let's talk about that when we come back. More Off the Bench next. All right, and we are back Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We'll be joined by Anthony Schlegel to talk all things college football coming up here in a bit. But during the headlines portion of the show, we came across Oklahoma State players will wear QR codes on the back of their helmets that link to a donation page to their NIL Collective. Now, I'm not poking fun at you, so you have no problem doing that. You're not the only one. A lot of fans want to feel like they played a role in their team's success. A lot of Buckeye fans will donate. A lot of Bearcat fans will donate. A lot of Michigan, Alabama, it doesn't matter. Those passionate fan bases will donate their money to these NIL collectives because they want to feel like they've played a role in helping acquiring big-time talent to come to their particular program, right?
Yep.
And you have no problem doing that.
No, yeah, I donate to both of the Ohio State ones and Alabama's in both basketball and football. So I guess four NIL collectives I give recurring donations to. I think it's cool as a fan. I mean, I would buy merch and everything like that before, so this is just another way I have enough T-shirts, so I'll spend the same $25 to help my team win a national championship, even if it's, a little bit here and there. It adds up to the $1.5 million you're paying, certain players. So yeah, I mean, I really truly believe that every dollar fans donate directly translates to wins, whether it's this year or 4 years down the line when you're recruiting someone, that's a freshman in high school currently. So yeah, I think it does make a difference, and whether you like it or not, I'm not really too gung-ho about NIL in college football, but whether you like it or not, it has directly translated to wins already. Yeah. Michigan raised a massive amount of money to bring back all their seniors, and those seniors are the ones that drove that team to a national championship. That O-line was incredible. Blake Corum was incredible, and those pieces would not have been there without NIL. They would have went to the NFL. So I think there's already tangible results from NIL resulting in winning championships, or at least competing for championships. And I think as a fan, if you can even just talk yourself into helping your team win a championship, it's pretty cool, because that I donate $20 to 2 schools, but I don't think anyone can stop me from saying we anymore. So it's fun. I like it. I can talk myself into it a little bit more.
No, and that's totally fair. Now, I'm not that passionate of a fan to do that, I guess, on my end, but I'm really not mocking those that do it, because the bottom line is I have a ton of friends who are donors to their particular school, okay? And they why is that okay? No one makes fun of that when people donate to their school, when they're donating it to the athletics department to help with, obviously, facilities, and anything else that goes to, of course, funding an athletics department, right? Like, I feel like if I am going to donate money, I would prefer to just give it directly to a fund that is going to go directly to the players, because there's a direct correlation now between NIL success and having the money to go and acquire the players. I feel like I would have more of an impact on my team's success by going that route. So I understand where you're coming from with that as far as that's concerned. Some people won't like it, but the bottom line is there is a justification for it. But what is preventing professional sports from doing similar things? It would take an owner with a set of cojones to do it. But I am here to tell you, as much as I and many people would make fun of it, there are enough passionate, crazy fans out there that would donate to the Cincinnati Bengals, not NIL fund, but to a free agent fund, whatever you want to call it. There are plenty of crazy fans who would do it. And this isn't just Bengals fans, it's Browns fans, it's Steelers, it's all NFL teams, it's all NBA teams, the Cincinnati Reds, Major League Baseball. What is preventing Major League Baseball teams, the Cincinnati Reds, the Cincinnati Bengals, what is preventing them from doing this? Because I feel like fans would donate. Fans would feel like, man, if I could play a role in keeping Jamar Chase in Cincinnati, if I could play a role in being a part of, hey, I helped pay Joe Burrow, right? Like the egos of fans, right? Like that exists. I'm just saying it's kind of a wild concept, and I'm not even saying I'm for it, but I am very surprised that many people have not even considered it, considering how we're seeing the monetization of amateur college athletics.
I would love to see it at the professional level.
I don't know
because
if it's legal.
Well, it's definitely not legal.
Right.
It's definitely 100% not legal. But, could you imagine, if Castellini was just like, you know what, we're going to have a Bryce Harper pot. You guys can donate whatever you want. This money is just going to go to Bryce Harper. And if we got X amount of millions of dollars, we pay Bryce Harper and we get Bryce Harper. That's where I think it would be cool. Now, granted, again, like Jacob said, 100% not legal.
Like walking out of the ballpark, they just have a tub with Ellie's head on it. You put like a quarter in his mouth, and it goes down like a spiral, like the children's museum.
Pay Elly. That's what it would be.
Beers are round numbers, and that like 4 cents goes to Ellie's contract.
Now here's where it would get crazy, because baseball has no salary cap.
Right.
Could you imagine the entire city of New York for all the Yankees
one
fans?
Wall Street hedge fund manager is just
$15 billion to one player.
Who does Bezos root for?
I don't know. I don't think Bezos has.
He's out on the Celtics. He's out on the Celtics.
Oh, well, Bill Simmons said it would be a good test for him.
Really?
Yeah.
HBO for 10 on his takes, by the way.
Boston and New York would just pay pay whoever they wanted for $1 billion, and you would see a new world of sports that we haven't seen yet. And again, this is all hypothetical because, of course, not legal. But I do think it's funny, like back to the college thing, what you were saying. How much money you ever see the movie Nerve? You ever heard of the movie Nerve? It stars Emma Roberts, and basically the movie's about an online game that these group of people can sign up for a dare, right? And the people that are watching on the computer or their phones, they'll donate money to watch you do this dare. How much till that comes to college football? And it's like, we want to see you flip off a referee. Here's $100 to your NIL. We'll pay you $100. How much of that? Because I feel like that's just, at this point, the line is so blurry that we're just going to start, it's going to be like the WWE. It's just pay-per-view. We're just going to pay you to see whatever we want. I want a flea flicker here. Run a flea flicker, and I'll donate to your program $1,000.
That was a league.
That was a league?
The fan-controlled football league.
The fan-controlled football league?
Johnny Manziel played quarterback in it. You could go on your phone during the game and you pick what play they run next.
Oh, that's nonsense.
And it was incredible. It was
By the way,
very, very fun way to watch football.
You see that Roger and Reed, I see that. So basically you are suggesting sports-only fans.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what it would be. We're not that far away from it.
By the way, and Casey would call that kinky.
It's
The whole kit and
definitely a little
caboodle.
kinky, if you ask me.
Oh, man. All right. Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. Off and rolling here on a Wednesday. We'll be joined by Anthony Schlegel coming up here around the corner. We close this part out before we get to Anthony Schlegel. College football has played games in ballparks, racetracks, overseas. Name a venue that hasn't hosted a college football game before but should. I know we were talking about this before the show. I thought it was a cool thing I came across, especially, with the Reds are going to be playing at the Speedway coming
Bristol.
up next year, in Bristol Speedway next year. So just, it's kind of cool seeing some of these games be played in very unique spots. Obviously, the Field of Dreams game, of course, is always unique as far as that's concerned. But from a college football perspective, what is a venue or a site that we've yet to see a game be played that you would like to see a game be played?
We've seen it for college basketball, and it's one of my favorite games of all time. I would love to see college football played on an aircraft carrier. Played in the middle of the water. Put two Maxwells out there so the quarterback's bad, and they'll sail a deep pass into the ocean.
Yep.
I don't want to see two Heisman quarterbacks up there just dicing up the field in the water. I want to see some bad throws go into the ocean. So I would love to see college football be played on an aircraft carrier. I would love to see them bring that back for basketball. I said it was too tough with the wind and the depth perception to play a real competitive game, which is probably fair, but it was a lot of fun to bet on a game on an aircraft carrier. So I'd love to see that for college football.
All right, I've got two. Here we go. And I don't know what the logistics of this would be. The Roman Coliseum.
Love that.
I would love Alabama versus Auburn in the Roman Coliseum. I think that would be fun. I don't know the logistics. And the other one is at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. Okay. I don't know how we can do that, but again, these are things that I would personally like to see.
How are the dimensions down there for a football field?
Well, it's going to be a little looser, and it
would
depends.
The fans sit up top?
Of course they would.
And
and there would be a zip line feature, and you could zip line. Like, that's how everybody would get down to the field. It would be a big show. I think we could make that work. A zip line down to the field. Could you imagine the referees zip lining down to the field? I mean, that would be
Maybe they have to
electric.
call the game fully suspended in the air.
Oh, that would be great. These are things that I think are possible, and that could happen.
Very possible. Anything's
Reed
possible.
said the Pit.
Pit's not bad.
Elder High School.
That's right.
Pit's not bad.
Have you been to the Pit?
Absolutely. No, I have not.
Nobody's been to the Pit.
I've not.
Except for Jacob. Jacob's been.
Yeah, that's right.
Casey, you've never been?
No, I've not been to the Pit. Not been to the Pit.
Or Blanchester. We could play an NFL or a college game in Blanchester.
Cornfields. That's all you see.
Honestly, though, I would want to see a game like just in the middle of nowhere. I just take a random cornfield anywhere, put up some lights. I've been thinking about this idea. Why don't more random pop-up stadiums just exist in these cornfields? You might say, well, the farmers have to make money with the livestock and everything, the corn and everything, so we can't uproot their whole farms. But think about how fun it would be for me, the viewer, to see it happen.
Like a Field of Dreams, but football style.
Yes.
I like
right.
that.
Yes.
I like that.
All I heard was Elliott hates the farmers.
That's not what I said.
That's the Blue Mountain
That's
State.
I mean,
Is
that's
that the Blue Mountain
sponsored by
State? Well, it
United
happened in
Dairy
Friday Night
Farmers.
Lights,
Don't
too.
play anyway.
Really? Okay. So I think my ideas are just rolling off the top of my head right now.
No, those are good. I think that, they played at
Underwater?
Underwater would be great.
Now we're getting crazy.
They played at
like
Wrigley. They play the Pinstripe Bowl at Yankee Stadium. Why don't we set up the next Red Hawks Bearcats game at the Little League Park in Hamilton?
Yes. I think that would be very, very good.
We'll get the video board out there, have a whole Jumbotron. That'd be incredible.
I think that would be the play. I think that would absolutely be the play.
They got that big blue monster out there. It'd be set up perfectly.
Listen,
I don't know how Little League dimensions would work for a football.
Yeah, I don't know if they would.
But we'd figure it out.
I think it's like 185 to left. But
there's a lot of extra it's a hill, but they can make it work.
Yeah, you're right. I think that's actually the play.
I think you're right.
So I guess it was back in 2016. We're talking about the Reds playing at Bristol Speedway. I guess it was the Pilot Flying J battle at Bristol, and that was Virginia Tech against Tennessee. At battle at Bristol, as far as that's concerned. So we've seen that done before. One that caught my attention that I really liked, and I did my bachelor party here, but Churchill Downs. Churchill Downs would be kind of a really unique and kind of a cool spot to see a college football game be played, as far as that's concerned.
Randy says you could play it in a prison, in a penitentiary.
Oh, come on. Cleveland Browns play there.
You did that yourself.
Okay,
you did that.
That's
I wasn't going to connect those dots.
That's what we call projection.
Someone's
I'm sorry.
a little self-conscious over there.
I wasn't going to connect those.
I thought you were live. I'm like, ha, ha, ha.
The Last Yard's a great movie. Now that you mention it, we would have a quarterback that would certainly be in line to play it.
I'll take Paul Carew.
Paul Carew, you're right.
Here comes the boom. There you go. All right. Do we have Anthony? Is he on and ready to rock?
He's not on.
Okay. As soon as we get him up and ready, we'll be able to knock this out. But yeah, nonetheless. But yeah, I think Churchill would be cool. A lot of different cool spots you could do that as far as
play that Kentucky-Louisville game at Churchill Downs. That'd be awesome.
That would be incredible.
You talked about the basketball at the Carriers. Well, they stopped doing that. I think it was Ohio State, North Carolina was the last one that they attempted, right? And I think there was just so much moisture on the floor, and I don't think have they attempted it since. I was in college. It was it was about 10 years ago, I think, was the last one that they tried for that. But that looked cool. That was like a really unique setting for it. I was a big fan of that as far as that's concerned. But yeah, I think they learned a lesson with that. But the court was just too slick as far as that's concerned. All right, off the bench. What's that?
No, you're good. I was going to say something, but then I stopped it.
You're paid to say something. Say something.
What would realistically? What's the craziest place you could play a college football game?
I think I've done it.
You think you've done it?
Yeah, I think the Speedway's.
I think that's fair.
Pretty much it.
I've never been to the Sphere in Vegas. I don't think that's possible, but the Sphere would be pretty damn cool.
Wait, the Sphere?
That'd be pretty cool.
How would you do it in the Sphere?
That's what I'm saying. You said the craziest. I don't think it could happen,
Sphere.
but the Sphere would be freaking sweet. Have you been? Has anyone in here been to the Sphere? You have. Very cool. I mean, I really want to I don't care if it's Blue Man Grill. I don't even care what I'm witnessing there. I just want to go and experience something at the Sphere because it looks really dang cool.
It's legitimately incredible, and how the dimensions of it are so weird because it's so steep. Okay. Like if you're at the back, it's legit like almost a straight down thing.
Everyone says there's not a bad seat in there because of that.
Correct. There's not. It's absolutely incredible, and not to mention the screen is legit all the way up. So it's pretty crazy. Justin Edgel, $1.99. Shout out to the Cammy Balls campaign, right, Kinner?
Oh, I mean, look, I'm so broke. I've donated all my money when I was in Chicago yesterday.
I didn't get it. I didn't get it until you started laughing.
I donated $27.50. That's what I did yesterday. So
there you go.
There you go. But anyways. All right, we'll step away for a few moments. We'll have we'll have some housekeeping items and stuff. We'll have Anthony Schlegel joining us coming up here around the corner, but more off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers when we come back.
Well, hey, you know what time it is. It's time to pay the bills, everyone. Yeah, time to pay the bills. Pawnee water. You hear that? That nice and smooth water? It's Pawnee water, made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. Uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that other brands use. The result being a healthy alkaline water, and some say the best tasting water in the world. Well, I certainly say it. I think everyone in this room says it's the best tasting water in the world.
Well, let me say it for myself. Don't put words in my mouth.
Please.
Go ahead, Jacob.
Please don't.
I think it's the best tasting water in the world.
Yeah. I'll take it a step further. I think it's the best tasting water in the universe.
Wow.
Maybe the galaxy?
Wow.
Are we in the Andromeda galaxy? Pawnee water is the best water in the Andromeda galaxy.
Is that right?
Is that Star Wars or is that ours?
I was going to say, I thought we were the Milky Way.
Andromeda might be Star
I
Wars.
think we're the Milky Way.
Pretty sure we're the
Andromeda might be
Milky
Star
Way.
Wars.
Ooh,
I don't know which one it is.
That's
continue
a
your
tough
ad
one.
read, Casey. I'll get
That's
back to you with where that is.
that's a
Find
tough
me in
one,
the
Elliot.
Andromeda Galaxy.
That's a tough one. Continuing on, the Bengals report, future Bengals report, is proudly sponsored by Encore Technologies. At Encore Technologies, they deliver cutting-edge IT solutions for a data-driven world. From mobile computing and desktop support to advanced data center solutions, we help businesses enhance efficiency and
Man.
Productivity.
Productivity.
That's right, Jimbos. Visit encore.tech where your path to innovation begins. Here, there, everywhere, but mainly right here.
So before you get rolling into the next one, Elliot, not Star Wars, real life galaxy, Andromeda Galaxy.
Credit to me.
So,
Credit to me for knowing
it's
science.
just a random one.
not where we are. We are in the
Well,
Milky Way.
not yet.
The Andromeda Galaxy is the nearest galaxy to the Milky Way.
I see.
So you probably read that somewhere at some point.
So that's what I did. So I was smart. I bet not a lot of people knew that.
We know Pawnee Water's the best water in the Milky Way. You were saying it's also the best water in the Andromeda Galaxy.
Correct. That's two
Of course.
galaxies.
Right, two galaxies.
Dang.
Twice as many galaxies as any other bottled water you could buy.
That's correct.
That's crazy.
And I will not mention the other bottled water.
Of course not.
No, don't want to do that.
You could probably start your productivity in Encore Technologies in the Andromeda Galaxy as well.
That's right.
Probably. And maybe in the future, our ticketing sponsor will have tickets to go to the Andromeda Galaxy. Maybe one day.
And I'll tell you what, there'll be no fees on those bad boys.
Yeah, there won't be. And all the pricing will be up front, and you'll get to see exactly where you're sitting at on the spaceship. Game Time, our ticketing sponsor
This is
app.
off.
Use the
I feel
Game
like that's
Time
far
app,
worse.
create an account, and use code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Game Time is awesome, guys. Certainly go download it. Use the code. They have great deals all the time, especially for these Reds tickets right now. Check them out. The prices are unbelievable. And like I said before, pricing's all up front. You can see exactly where you're sitting at. That was not a joke. That was legitimate features in the app itself. They have like Game Time picks and super deals and things like that you can check out as well. They have deals for Bengals tickets. They've got stuff going on at Riverbend. What's so funny?
The chat.
Don't worry about it.
Don't
No.
worry about it.
Here's
be a
what's
professional.
not funny. The fact that game day is so much better than anything else.
Game
Game
time.
Sorry, Casey. Continue.
Game Time, our ticketing sponsor app. Please check them out. Download it. Use code OTB.
I'm
Terms
gonna stop
apply.
speaking.
$20 off your first purchase.
I'm legit just never gonna speak.
All that fun stuff. Other housekeeping items. Please, if you haven't done so already, please hit the like button. Share the show with a friend. It really helps us grow and reach more viewers like you. Thank you. And we have box lunch later today. I think we're going to talk about
We're going to
fantasy.
set up a fantasy league. We're going to set up a Chatterbox fantasy league for our members. So if you want to be in it, please join the box lunch today. If you do not, if you're unable to join box lunch and you really want to be in it, send me a DM on Twitter, and we'll try to work that out. But first come, first serve is the spots are going to go to the people that are in box lunch today. So if there's any open ones and you can't make it, send me a DM. But if I had to guess, they'll probably fill up today. So make sure you're there.
Yeah. So if you haven't done so, try to become a member today. They're
That's right.
Yeah, it's as simple as the smallest, or not the smallest, the cheapest price gets you all the video access up front and access to these fantasy leagues that we're going to start doing.
We'll get we'll work a prize in there for the winner of the fantasy league. We're
Yeah.
going to be in the fantasy league as well, so it might not be going to any of y'all, but we'll work a prize in there for the fantasy league as well. So make sure you're a member. Make sure you want to join that.
Yeah. Simple as $10. And you get to have lots of fun with us throughout the rest of the year. So check that out. There's also a $25 one. Gets you discount codes to our merch store. Yeah, check that out. It's a good time. Other housekeeping items. We are starting up our high school stuff this weekend. So we're going to have plenty of things going on in terms of high school soccer, high school football. And if you haven't done so already, we have Chatterbox Plus. You can subscribe to that and get all the access to those games as well. We also do coaches shows for a lot of those teams too on Mondays. We just did a couple of those, and I think those are just on Twitter. You can just check those out in general and take a look at those. Check out your favorite high school teams, guys. Keep up on them, you know?
Then one more housekeeping. Chatterbox Bengals is on the horizon. It's coming soon. It's right around the corner, so keep an eye out for any more updates about that. But it's right here. It's coming soon, so stay tuned.
Awesome. So that will do it for the ads, paying the bills, and housekeeping items. Let's go back to the radio.
I think Anthony's good to go, by the way.
Yes.
He is? Okay. We're all set?
Yep.
Ready to rock? All right. We'll get rolling. Hour number 2 of Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett with you here. Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. We welcome you back. I saw a question in the chat that was just asking if, Elliot, can you be serious at all?
Nope.
At any moment in life?
Nope. And here's what's going to have to happen. I'm going to be on. I can't talk during the ads anymore. That's what's going to have to happen. I'm just too unserious. And at the end of the day, I need to be more serious. So that's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be serious during the ads, and the rest of the show I'm going to be unserious.
And you're going to use game day to buy your tickets.
That's not true. I was going to go on my thing. I was saying on game day, use game time.
Whatever galaxy you're in.
That's what I was going to say, but in my brain I got it mixed up. And now I look like a big dumb idiot. So that's my fault, and I'm sorry to everybody involved.
You look like a clean-shaven sweet prince.
Thank you.
With buff arms from
Don't
all
call
them
yourself a
damn
big
push-ups
dummy.
you did.
See, what's hurtful about the buff arms thing is I think you're doing it sarcastically, which means I don't look buff at all.
Well, did you expect to do all those push-ups last night and me not talk about how buff you look?
That's true. I guess I shouldn't. I should have remembered that. I should have thought about that. But I'm just a young boy.
Okay.
That's right.
Be serious, Elliot. Come on now. All right. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Let's continue talking a little college football. Week 0 coming up this weekend. Of course, Ohio State kicks off their season a week from Saturday, as well as all the other fun college football action around the country. And speaking of being serious, I can't wait to bring on our next guest, who is always serious, right? We have former Ohio State Buckeye, Anthony Schlegel. Anthony, how are you, sir? It has been a while.
Yeah, good, man. I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Not too bad. Look, people get honest about not being serious enough, and I know you're a very serious person, so you got to help us out today.
Hey, listen, I mean, I'm pretty happy-go-lucky. I'm not necessarily a serious guy, but, I mean, off the bench, I mean, that's what it is. Like, you call me off the bench or off the sideline, no trespassing Ohio Stadium. I am all business, but
There
I'm
you
ready.
go. There you go. Hey, so we just, a little bit ago we were talking about this. So I came across this on the old Twitter machine. I said college football has played games in ballparks, racetracks, overseas. We were trying to name venues that have not hosted a college football game before, and we were throwing out different ideas, aircraft carriers. I said Churchill Downs. What's a cool, unique spot that has yet to carry a college football game that you'd like to see? Putting you on the spot.
Maybe, somewhere like a Daytona Speedway, something like that. That could be potentially cool. Man, I don't even know. I have no clue. I mean, somewhere in the mountains. I'm just so used to playing in venues. Like, I don't know where you would play them. But you know what? Here's probably a really good one. A field outside of a Waffle House. That's what I would like to see.
I wouldn't watch
Because
the
that's
game. I'd be
Waffle
in
House
Waffle
ready. I'd be watching the game from Waffle House, and then you automatically know a fight's going to break out outside of it. So not only are you going to have entertainment on the field, you'll have entertainment in the parking lot of Waffle House. It's 2 for 1. That sounds good to me.
We had a lot of suggestions. That was the only one that involved a Waffle House. So we're off to a good start as far as that's concerned.
Yeah,
Jacob, I'll send it over to you.
Hey, I was just wondering, talking about venues, you obviously played at Ohio State and then played in the league for a while, and then you coached at Ohio State as well. So I was wondering, what was your favorite venue to play in as a player or as a coach?
Yeah, favorite venue to play in outside of the shoe and Air Force Stadium. Like Falcon Stadium is pretty cool. Flyovers in the mountains. I would say Penn State when it was because we played in the first whiteout at Penn State in 2005, and it was amazing. I mean, you had to. People don't realize this, but they had probably 6 foot wide tunnel, maybe a little bit bigger than that, but it was just chain link. And as you're walking to the field, it was probably 70 yards to the tunnel, and people were just throwing stuff at you, spilling beer on you, and like shaking the fence. It literally was a scene from Gladiator, and I absolutely ate it up because it's just you and your boys out there ready to go do damage. Unfortunately, we lost that game, and I still think about that. I'm quite pissed off about it, that we only gave up 170 yards and lost that game. You know, I still know the stats from almost 2 decades ago, but one of my favorite places to play.
We got former Buckeye Anthony Schlegel with us here on Off the Bench. Anthony Schlegel, of course, you could see him on the Bobby Carpenter Show with Anthony Schlegel, of course. I love following you guys on that. And we'll highlight some more of your projects coming up here in just a moment. But obviously, Week 0 coming up. Ohio State kicks off their season a week from Saturday. We saw the 4-team college football playoff era. Ohio State, of course, kicked it all off in a very impressive fashion, winning the inaugural 4-team college football playoff national championship. They have high expectations heading into the inaugural 12-team college football playoff. Obviously, a lot of buzz and excitement around Ohio State, and they have a chip on their shoulder, especially after losing 3 straight to Michigan, the disappointing finish to last year. Credit to Ryan Day and his staff because there seems to be just a very positive buzz considering the unfortunate finish to last season.
Well, I think you go through, and when you have that run of, struggles at the end of the year, especially against Michigan. Here's the other thing, man. Like, that wasn't the same type of, regardless of all of the stuff on the periph, that was a different Michigan team than the ones that Urban faced. Okay? It's just a fact. And they've gotten significantly better. But that doesn't mean that the expectation is not to win them all. Like, we've done that, I think it was like at one point 18 out of 20 times from 2000 to 2020. Like, that's the expectation at Ohio State. But what he did, Ryan, every single year reevaluates. He brought in Jim Knowles on defense. Defense upgraded dramatically because it's his system and he knows exactly what he wants. Then now you bring in Chip Kelly. And in this new era of college football, having a coordinator that you unequivocally trust is paramount, but also a guy that's been a head football coach in the NFL and in college football. And then you look at the fact that him and Ryan have a lot of synergies in how to call plays. And then you look at what Ryan has been doing for the last 5 years previously. Regardless if you have a quarterback coach, Ryan was the quarterback coach. Ryan was also the offensive coordinator. Ryan was also the head coach. And you think about the bandwidth that it takes to do that, which I don't think a lot of people understand. That's a lot. So that's why the hire of Chip Kelly was significant this offseason, because it now allows Ryan to take that 30,000-foot view of the entire program, evaluate his coaches, coach his coaches, but also be the head coach that he needs to be. I say this all the time in business or to people, but you can't work in the business while working on the business. It doesn't work. You become a lifestyle business as opposed to a corporation. And so now him being able to move out of that offensive coordinator role and into a true head coach role, I think it's going to pay dividends off this season. Not to mention that you brought in some really freaking good dudes, and the nucleus of your team is now veteran-led. And if you look at that Michigan team from a year ago, 40-something seniors that have departed. Teams that have veteran leadership have a better opportunity of winning because they know what it takes to get there and to finish.
Speaking of that offensive side of the ball, everyone seems to be focused on the freshman, obviously Jeremiah Smith, who's been tearing it up from everything that's coming out of camp so far. But I feel like a guy that's flying under the radar is Carnell Tate. He was a 5-star recruit the year before, obviously was buried behind a couple guys last year on the roster. What do you expect out of that wide receiver room at Ohio State this year with so much talent sliding into that? Marvin Harrison obviously stepping away, a lot of yards that are available to be taken by somebody. Who do you expect to slide into that number 2 role behind Emeka?
I see Emeka being more of the slot guy. And again, Emeka, why he's a captain, he's a prototypical pro. His game translates to the NFL at a high level. You look at JJ's getting a lot of stuff, and rightly so. The dude just works, man. I'm like, regardless of his size and his skill set, like, he is a worker. He won the Iron Buckeye Award as a freshman. That's never been done. He just shows up and does it. But Carnell Tate, you brought that up, and I'm happy that you did. When I was able to work, and train them for the first 6 months of the year because they needed some assistance because my buddy was down, Carnell really surprised me. But it goes back to Emeka because Emeka runs the room and everybody feeds off of Emeka on how to be a pro, how to handle their business in the weight room. But he's not flying under the radar to me. I mean, here's the thing. Like, the hardest thing about Ohio State is that there's one football, right? And you have Emeka Ibuka, J.J. Smith, Carnell Tate. You look at Brandon Ennis. You got, JB. Like, you got all this group of wide receivers, highly talented. Then you look at Q. You look at Trevion, right? You got G. Scott and you got Will Kazmarek that transferred in. There's only one football. And I think that that's the one thing that people have to understand about Ohio State. The stats might not necessarily be there. They weren't there for Marvin Harrison Jr. They maybe could have been a little bit more, but like now what you're going to see is pick your poison, guys. Like, do you want a bracket at JJ? Do you want a bracket at Carnell? That's going to free one-on-one on a nickel back with a Mecca, or there might be a one-on-one where they're going to play zone to JJ's side. Like, you're going to be able to pick your poison. And I also think that this is the other thing too, is that with Chip Kelly, remember Chip Kelly back in 2014, I forget what the hell they called their offense, but they were trying to run a play in every 16 seconds. That's not happening at Ohio State. But Ohio State will use tempo to its advantage, and that's where you're really going to see, in my opinion, the wide receiver room shine, because they're going to find a mismatch because we're going to run the football. And when you have that personnel on the field, they'll up-tempo, and then they'll get the ball in the perimeter to their wide receivers. And I see more explosive games than I see a lot of receptions and a lot of yards from our wide receiver room. But I think they're going to be fantastic. And again, leader of Zone 6, Brian Hartline. He's done a great job recruiting. He's done a great job of developing.
Yeah, another loaded room on that offensive side of the ball. You touched on Travion Henderson, Quinshot Judkins just there for a minute, but that's the first-team Big Ten running back and the first-team SEC running back from last year. How do you expect that split of carries to go, and do those guys even care about getting the ball, or is winning just truly the number one thing for them this year?
I think that winning is truly the number one thing, and you look at that room in depth, you got James Peoples, you got Sam Williams-Dixon, a Columbus guy, so they got depth there. And, here's why Trevion was voted captain. You get a guy like Q who comes in and it's like, hey, who's the number one guy? Doesn't matter. Let's go win. That takes a lot. It takes a lot of humility. But I think they also understand the long game in this. And that is you're playing 12 games. You're playing a college football playoff. Do I have to go rush for 1,500 yards to be a first-round draft pick in the NFL? The answer is no. You don't. Right? So, and they truly are different styles of bats. Like, Q is over 220. Trevion is a fast, twitchy guy that can be on the perimeter. They both have different skill sets. Would not be surprised if you see him in the backfield at the same time. But when you do that, it also takes a wide receiver off the field. You see the dilemma that they got. But ultimately, that's where the culture of Ohio State kicks in, and it's all about winning. And the biggest thing that I took away from that offseason and where they are now, it's like, leave no doubt, take them out. Like, they said that. The dude said that, right? Like, this is like a different – I got a different feel. I don't care about hype and BS that everybody throws out there. I'm not a Twitter guy. I'm not a social media guy. I'm a football coach that also played football. I'm a strength coach. And, yes, I am very serious. But my seriousness comes from I want dudes to play fast, hard, and violent and knock people's stuff in the dirt. That's what I want to see. And I think because of this veteran leadership, I think you're going to be able to see that. And it looks different as a wide receiver position. I want to see blocking. I want to see people getting dunked on, and they will do that because that's what you have to do to play wide receiver at Ohio State.
You talked about the senior leadership on the offense, but there's key seniors returning on the defensive side of the ball too. Jack Sawyer, Tyleik Williams, the two that stick out the most for me, leaders on that defensive line. Do you think that they're going to really take this defense to the next level? Obviously, top 5 last year, but high expectations bringing in a guy like Caleb Downs as well in that back end. High expectations for the team this year.
I think it's holistic, right? So Tyleik is going to be a high draft pick. You got Jack, who's a local guy. You also have JT, right? You have Ty Hamilton. You got some other guys. Think about this, guys. Like, moving to this new era of college football, the O-line and the D-lines are what's going to carry it. They're going to win you the games, and I think they're going to do a good job. They got to rotate those guys. Tyleik can't have 1,200 snaps, guys. Like, he cannot do it. Like, that's not feasible, nor should he have to do that. But you look at that leadership of those 3 guys that I mentioned, and you also add in Cody Simon. You also add in Denzel and IGB and Lathan Ransom along with now, and then Jordan Hancock, another one, right? And then you add in Caleb Downs, and you also have a young dog in the waiting of a Jermaine Matthews. Like, they got dudes on dudes, right, all over the board, but it starts with the seniors. And you saw that in the offseason. You've seen it during camp. When I talk to scouts, when I go to practice, they're like, this is the most competitive, most juiced up practices in college football. Guys, it's not just because they're on the field, man. That's how they train from January throughout the season, and they embrace that competitive excellence. So it is critical that we have that leadership going into this year and the way that our schedule aligns.
Anthony, how, like, with everything changing so much now with NIL and all that stuff, I mean, that's just the norm now, right? Like, that's not going anywhere. So obviously there was a period where everyone has to adapt, not just fans, but obviously coaches, players and everything. With money being so heavily involved, you're such a passionate guy. I see all the comments in the chat section right now. You have people ready to run through a wall, they said. But you're a passion guy, and that's what sports is all about. But how difficult is it as a coach when you have guys who, you have to find that balance of guys who are pursuing money and pursuing winning and trying to find that balance and trying to be able to kind of connect with them on an equal level?
Guys, you're at Chatterbox. I mean, is it any different than anybody's in any business? There's always part of the pie. Money just now happens to be part of the equation of the pie, and everybody's talking about it. That's the first time that's happened. It doesn't mean it's the biggest part of the pie. I think the reason a lot of the seniors stayed is they love their coach, they love their teammates, and oh yeah, by the way, I can make supplemental income before I go to the next level. And even in some of them, it's probably more money than they would get being a third or fourth round draft pick in the NFL. Guess what? I can also stay another year and get developed and then go to the pros. It makes complete sense. And go win a national championship and go beat that team up north? Absolutely. So here's the thing. I think everybody views this from the end-all be-all that it's always a money. And that's not the case. It's also why you might see lose on a big recruit just for your girlfriend. It ain't just going to happen, man. Like, we got seniors here, and if you don't believe in the brand of the development and the culture of Ohio State, then it's not a fit. And we will selectively go find the dudes that do, a.k.a. an IGB, a Caleb Downs, a Seth. That's what you do. That's how you fill in the gap of those things. So it's just a different time. I think people get pissed off about it because they see the amount they're making. As long as it doesn't impact the locker room, and that starts with the culture and the players and the coaches, you're fine. The schools that struggle with it don't have that kind of a culture. And that's on, and that goes into who's going to be your CEO that runs your program. We saw what happens when money can infect a locker room. It's called Texas A&M. Everybody leaves, you underperform, you go 8-4 because they're all about the money. It's not. It's part of the puzzle. It's part of the pie, but it's not the end-all be-all. And you got to find those type of character guys that are also, highly, highly skilled athletes.
I know we appreciate the time you've given us. Last football question. Elliot will send you out with the question too. But the 12-team college football playoff, new era. We saw a couple overlapping dynasties throughout that 4-team playoff era. Georgia, obviously, and Alabama. Clemson had a very good run. Ohio State always in the mix as well. But it's going to be a lot tougher to be able to have a dynasty run in a 12-team college football playoff era. Do you see dynasties continuing throughout a 12-team college football playoff era, regardless of how dominant these programs are at recruiting, especially with so many more chances to lose in a 12-team playoff?
You see it with the Chiefs. Why can't it happen in college football? So I think it still can. It's predicated upon, again, recruiting and development and also health. Right? Like, it's going to be very, very difficult for a middle-tier Power 4. It's going to be very difficult for a middle-tier Power 4 to be at that level and to win a natty because they might not necessarily have the depth of a Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama. Okay? So depth wins, development of that depth also contributes to that. I think it will be more difficult. I think that you're going to see more things transpiring, right? Like Notre Dame, they could go undefeated this year. Their schedule is quite soft. They go undefeated, now you're a 5 seed. They're going to be pissed off about that. Guess what? Join a conference. They're probably going to have to at some point. So, again, like how you navigate those waters, and even now, like we're talking about the Oregon game coming, guys, it's going to be at night. I think that's going to be played like at 11 o'clock Eastern time. Like those are issues that we've never had to do in the Big Ten. The SEC is more localized. They're never going to have to deal with that. But as the expansion happens, these things are all going to come into play. To your point of the question, because I digress sometimes and just throw out random nuggets, I would say that it is going to become more difficult, but it can happen as long as you have the right people on the bus. But it's a yearly thing in the NFL or in the college football, unlike the NFL where you have multi-year contracts.
Anthony, many people like myself know you from your elite tackling abilities when any streaker tries to storm the field. Now, I don't know if you're a baseball guy. I don't know if you're a Reds guy. But this year, we had a famous streaker come out there, and he did a backflip. He executed an entire backflip. If somebody tries to backflip on you while they're storming the field, how would you go about handling that situation?
Well, that one was unique. First off, I love baseball. My oldest son plays baseball, wants to play in college. I love baseball. I train his entire baseball team when I'm back in Florida, and it's super fun. Now, that one, first off, I'm like, how did the guy get on the field, right? Probably jumped down from outfield, ran on the field.
Oh, yeah.
On that one, if he does the backflip, I might just dap him up and just get him off, right? Like that's pretty impressive, right? So, but like if you start running around like an asshole, then I got to hit you, right? Then I got to chase you out, which is why I still work on acceleration. Like I'm not a long distance guy. Like once I'm past 100, like I'm good. I'm gonna try to flush you to somebody else that's waiting at a longer distance because like that's not my game. My game was in the box, So,
that's fair.
I still train, man. Like gas station ready always. But on that, if he did the backflip, if I did the backflip and I feel good and I'm just going to get off, I had my 15 seconds of fame, boom, dap him up, let's walk, let's have a talk. Hey, you're out of the stadium, but let's grab a beer later. That's fine. It's just when you take the next step that really messes up the flow of the game, that's what will piss me off. And if you're dialed in and you got a pitcher, like you also got to think about it. Like, who's the guy out there? Is it an 0-2 count? And I'm going to run. Like, I want somebody to do it strategically, right? Like, hey, it's an 0-2 count against a guy who got runners on second and third. I'm going to go out there right now and throw that pitcher off. Or if you jump out there and my pitcher is dialed in, and you're going to mess him up like when he's just like 3 up, 3 down, shame on you. And that might be a tackle midair. Because you didn't have the baseball acumen to know when to go out there and do it for the home team.
I like that.
I like that a lot.
That's a perfect answer.
All right, Anthony Schlegel, hey, thank you so much for giving us some time and bringing the energy to the show as you always do. Send us out, just obviously working with Bobby Carpenter, the Bobby Carpenter Show with Anthony Schlegel, and any other projects you're working on right now. Obviously super busy during this football season.
Super busy. I'm very blessed. I'm executive vice president of the Armory, which is super cool. We basically took the NFL Ohio State model of sports and performance, but made it for the general public. So we have medical, right? We have doctors, we have PTs, we have dietitians, we have exercise physiology. We have 12,000 square foot weight room. We got sports performance for youth athletes. Like literally, we have recovery. It literally is everything that you would get at Ohio State, but for the general public. It's really fun. It's really cool. We're changing lives, changing medicine. We're being proactive. Hey, guess what? If you're pre-diabetic, let's not be diabetic, man. Let's stop it right now. So it's super fun watching how people's lives have been changed by coming here. And then, of course, me and Bobby, we just talk shop and do stupid things. So it's always great.
All right. Well, this was great. Thank you so much. And we'll talk soon, we hope. And thank you for your time today.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate it.
All right, good stuff. Anthony Schlegel, former Ohio State Buckeye, awesome enough to give us some time here today on Off the Bench. We'll have more Off the Bench. We got a Bengals camp report coming up with Jacob, and then we'll have a little Bengals fill-in-the-blank segment to close out the show today. More Off the Bench next. All right, good stuff. Shout out to Anthony Schlegel. My goodness, man, that guy. I mean, I was laughing just following the chat. One guy said he's gonna have to tune out because he doesn't want to become a Buckeye fan. Because that's the impact that Anthony was having on everyone. He's awesome. We're gonna have him on more throughout the college football season. I appreciate him giving.
I think
us some
he
time.
had too much juice for our Wi-Fi at one point.
I know
the bandwidth is not used to that kind of energy and just willingness to run through a brick wall.
Yeah.
I don't think we have that on a given Monday at 10 but he does. So kudos to him. We're gonna need him in here more.
So they had a show. They have this show still. Bobby Carpenter does mornings over on 97.1 The Fan over in Columbus. But that show originally started with Anthony Schlegel and Bobby Carpenter. Anthony Schlegel took a job with Urban Meyer to go to Jacksonville. So he stopped doing mornings, but they called that show Morning Juice. And it was all about bringing the more. I mean, him as a morning show host, that's a perfect way to start your day.
That's awesome.
Like, he will get you jacked up and ready to go for the day. But he's awesome. Appreciate him giving us some time, and we'll have him more. We'll have him on more throughout the college football season as far as that's concerned. All right, good stuff. Talked a lot of college football today. Let's transition over to the National Football League. Let's transition over to the Cincinnati Bengals. We got Jacob with our Bengals camp update.
Yeah, Bengals camp yesterday, the second joint practice of the offseason. Bengals and Colts had a joint practice ahead of their preseason game tomorrow. And some mixed reviews coming out of camp. The defense had a very good day. Anthony Richardson seemingly struggled in basically every 11-on-11 period. In the first period, it was reported that Anthony Richardson went 1 for 4 with multiple scrambles in the period. And if you know anything about joint practices, QB scrambles are not encouraged because you're obviously wanting to practice. The quarterback needs to throw the ball for the back half of the defense to practice. And after that period ended, B.J. Hill yelled at Anthony Richardson, "Throw the damn ball, bro." And then Geno Stone said that he only throws the ball to spots and not open receivers. So my main takeaway from practice yesterday is this defense has a little juice. There's a little bite to this defense, and we didn't see that a lot last year. They tucked their tail a lot and just kind of went with the flow and hoped things went well. This defense seems to be taking things in their own hands and making it go well. So very encouraged after yesterday's practice.
Should I cash out of my Colts future?
I don't know.
Is that a real quote?
It was a real quote.
Oh, that's a tough quote.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson had been seen at Colts practice.
Only throw to spots?
Geno Stone said that to
Okay. That makes more sense.
There's been a lot of reports out of camp in the Colts so far, though, that Anthony Richardson's been throwing individual drills and stuff with his left hand instead of his right hand because there's still worries about his shoulder injury. So I'm taking a lot of that worth a grain of salt because I don't know how healthy he is. But still, you go against who you go against. Bengals defense looks good in practice yesterday. The offense, a little bit more shaky, did not score in the 11-on-11 period. There were a couple interceptions, but in the short and intermediate passing game, 7-on-7 periods, Joe Burrow went 26 for 32 with 2 touchdowns and 1 pick. So an all-around decent day for the offense. The run game continues to look better with a lot more motion and a lot more tight end usage than we've seen in years past. T. Higgins, I don't know if you guys all saw the play. If you haven't, go check it out on the Bengals social media. He made a play where he jumped out of the gym yesterday, took the ball off Kenny Moore's head, the Colts DB. It was an unbelievable play. He continues to shine every step of the way of Bengals training camp, and you just have to wonder as he keeps burning it down as the Bengals get closer and closer to week 1, is there more and more pressure on Jamar Chase to come back and get some training camp reps as long as T. Higgins looks like the best receiver on the team with Jamar not out there? We'll see how that continues to go as we get closer. But another receiver that seemingly gets glossed over a lot because he is a tight end, but his contributions to the team this year are going to be mostly in the receiving role. Mike Gesicki dominated the red zone periods yesterday, absolutely dominated the red zone periods, and I think Mike Gesicki is probably the best red zone threat that Joe Burrow's had in his career. So to have him on the team and have him gelling well with Burrow and the rest of that first team offense this late, as we get closer to week 1 is really, really good to see and really encouraging. The last piece of news that came from practice yesterday is Zach Taylor said that most of the starters will not play on Thursday's preseason game, maybe a couple here or there. So not the hard 0 that he gave for game 2, but don't expect to see Burrow or any of the big names for week 3.
Which they're going to need that rest because Myles Murphy went down.
That's right. Myles Murphy went down, carted off the field with an injury yesterday, but early reports that it's an MCL sprain, not expected to miss significant time, a few weeks, and at the latest, the timeline I saw was that he'd be back for the Chiefs game in week 2.
The D-line room this whole offseason has been just brutal. Players getting hurt, retiring. We lost Cam Sample for the year. You lose Jeff Gunter, getting banged up Sam Hubbard early on in the preseason, and then now Miles Murphy. That room just is not healthy at the moment, and that's very worrisome. And we already talked about defensive tackle depth with McKinley being hurt. A lot of those guys just not getting a lot of reps. So it's just, I'm a little nervous about that. But I guess the shining part of this all is that the secondary has been lights out, and they've been really doing a good job. Like you said, Anthony Richardson did nothing yesterday, which is great. Whether that's a mixture of how the first team D lineman did and the secondary performed. But overall, I mean, it seems like this whole entire offseason, all the preseason, it's a lot of good reports about this team's defense just being improved overall. Great to hear. I thought some little tidbits, some interesting notes, Jacob, about the offense. Mike Gesicki being a huge threat in the red zone this whole entire process is as we expected, but it feels like they're getting a connection down more and more. That's great to see. T. Higgins and Joe Burrow seem to just be like on the same page, completely connected to each other when there's no elements involved. As soon as there's some sort of weather, and of course we're kind of looking into that Bears practice a little bit, but there's been other cases to where the Browns game last year, T. Higgins and Joe did not look good together. So that's something to keep an eye on moving forward if there's ever any inclement weather, to see how those two do together. The other thing that I thought was also very interesting is Dax Hill was tested a lot yesterday, and I know I touched on the secondary a lot, but it seems like Dax is just climbing up the ranks fast, and that's great news for us. If they can find ways to get him involved again and have him getting meaningful reps on this team, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about positional value all the time with the draft, and the thing with Dax Hill is if he's not going to start at safety, you drafted a player in the first round that has a pretty low positional value, and he's going to bust at that position. Well, if we just found a way to move him to an exponentially more valuable position of outside corner, and it's going to work, that's going to end up looking like a phenomenal draft pick. And all the reports coming out of camp and what we saw from him in the preseason games so far, he's looked pretty good on the outside. I mean, just being thrown into the fire there, his first camp playing there consistently, his first NFL action playing there consistently, he's looked good. It's really, really encouraging. And then to have guys like, Newton and DJ Turner behind him, when you move those guys down from corner 2 and corner 3 to corner 3 and corner 4, they get a lot better. So I think an area that was a major, major concern for me going into this offseason was the secondary, and everything about, how the three safeties are playing. Bell, Battle, and Stone all look good. The DB room is impressing. I'm really confident with the way this defense is trending, and all the reports out of the offseason so far have been all the reports that I've wanted to hear, with T playing well, with Hendrickson getting back in the mix. Sam Hubbard took part in individual drills yesterday after an injury early in training camp. So everything's on the up and up for the Bengals. Just need Jamar to put that pen on the dotted line, and we'll be ready to roll for the rest start of the season.
And again, the Bengals defense, first 4 games of the season going up against, of course, the Patriots. Obviously, the big one, the Chiefs in week 2, the Commanders, Panthers, first month of the season, no doubt. But, yeah, the Bengals defense definitely getting a lot of praise not coming out of camp, still a lot of camp remaining. But this is that time of camp where I'm just over it. I'm just like, all right, can we just please get to the regular? Any injuries in camp stink, but like at this point when you're so close to the finish line, any injuries from here on out, just absolutely brutal, devastating as far as that's concerned. All right, we'll step away for a few moments. When we come back, we close out the radio side of things. A little fill-in-the-blank action, all Cincinnati Bengals related. We'll be right back. All right, and we welcome you back. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. Let's close out the radio conversation. Talking a little Cincinnati Bengals, of course. A little fill-in-the-blank action. I'm going to throw out a couple fill-in-the-blank scenarios, and the Bengals fans in the room will fill them out because I'm not allowed. So that's the rules. I don't make them. I just follow them. All right, little fill-in-the-blank. Off and rolling here. We all know that the most important player on the Cincinnati Bengals is none other than Joe Burrow. So, fill in the blank. The second most important Cincinnati Bengal is who? Is fill in the blank.
I'm going to say Trey Hendrickson. I think Trey Hendrickson's my answer. Yeah, I think the two receivers are the easy answer. Either one of them, you could go that route. But I think they would pick up the slack for the other one, where I think the wide receiver room as a whole is obviously incredibly crucial for the way this team operates. But losing DJ Reader on the defense, being unsure of what Sam Hubbard's going to be able to do as a pure edge rusher when we're talking about sacks and pass production, he's been phenomenal as a run stopper. But we're going to need a Miles Murphy or a Joseph Asai to step up on the other side of that. On the other side of that defensive line going into the season, if we want to get the consistent pressure on the quarterback that's required to win a Super Bowl. But a lot of that weight can be alleviated by Trey Hendrickson stringing together another 17, 18, 20 sack season, which he's been able to do for the last 2 years. And I think it gets glossed over a lot because he's not as flashy as Myles Garrett or TJ Watt or Max Crosby or any of the other elite edge rushers in the game. But he has the stats to back it up. And with a lot of the changes on the defensive side of the ball this year for the Bengals, I think Trey Hendrickson remaining at the top of the edge rushers in the league is absolutely crucial for this defense to get us where we want it to
go. My answer is Jamar Chase. I think Trey Hendrickson's a good answer, of course. Jamar Chase, to me, is as long as he's on the field with Joe Burrow, I know our offense is going to put up great numbers. I think Jamar Chase is the second most important player. It's why everybody's freaking out about him not having that extension yet, why he's not been practicing yet. I just think that though I think Joe Burrow does elevate this wide receiving core, which does include Jamar Chase, I do at the same time think Jamar Chase is a top 10 wide receiver in the National Football League, and him being available and ready to play gives this offense the ability to straight up dominate every game they play, and that is the recipe to success. As much as I think you have to have a decent defense, this team was built to score points, a lot of points, and that's the method to success. And it starts with Joe Burrow, and then it's followed immediately by Jamar Chase.
Those are the only two answers that you can say.
McPherson?
McPherson,
like
yeah,
that.
I guess, yeah. I'm sorry, McPherson is very important to this team. I'll say McPherson. Why not?
Cal Adamitis?
No,
We saw what happened when Clark Harris went down and cost us the game.
That's fair. It's fair. I'll go with McPherson just because, but in all honesty, it's those two. But McPherson is important. I mean, if we don't have the third side of the ball taken care of, if you know that you can't score from 50-plus yards out, you're going to have a tough time in the NFL. It's just the way it is. You have to have a kicker, and he's got to be reliable. And McPherson, reliable as ever. I'll use that as my third most important guy. But the first two, Jamar and Trey, yeah, for those reasons.
I'll throw one more in there, and it's whichever punter makes the team. Brad Robbins or Ryan Reckow, whichever punter makes the team, they're crucial for the Bengals this season. Obviously, I don't want to punt a whole lot. When you have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, you don't plan on punting a whole lot. But when your punter is kicking the ball 30 yards, when you do have to punt, puts your defense in a really, really tough spot. So whichever one of those punters that makes the team, if they can be above league average this year, I think it'd be a massive boost for the Bengals.
There were several big moments last year that were ruined by Brad Robbins. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but at the same time, when you're the worst qualified punter, I feel like being the worst qualified punter is a hard accomplishment to have. I feel like that's difficult. I feel like you can be better than somebody. And if you're not, there's an issue. And I don't know if I guess we had Charlie Goldsmith on, and he said Brad Robbins was having a good camp from everything that he's seen. So maybe he's better. We just can't have the worst punter in the league. Can't happen.
So you obviously bringing up Jamar Chase. I think with this Jamar Chase contract situation, you could throw T into the mix only because don't know what the future with this Jamar Chase, how this thing's going to play out. I think it would be I think the wildest scenario is he doesn't play games to start the season because of this negotiation thing. I don't think that's going to be the case, but I don't think any of us thought he'd be holding out this long into camp to begin with, and I think he's an ultimate wild card. I agree with you. It's Jamar Chase is the second most important player. I do like all those answers, by the way, especially you feel like you have to pick a pass rush on the defensive side of the ball, no doubt. But if Jamar's going to be out or Jamar's not going to be in shape, and that sounds crazy, but as far as like timing shape, I think he's in physical shape, great shape. But I think T. Higgins is very important just because I think he's going to be the number one option early on, because even if Jamar Chase signs a deal right before the season kicks off, what is that, not chemistry, but what is that timing going to be like initially? And until that timing gets underway, I think that makes T. Higgins the second most important player just because of the great camp that he has had, and he could be the lifeline that helps Joe Burrow and this Bengals offense in the meantime until Jamar Chase gets back up and rolling. But again, all of those great answers as far as that's concerned. All right, more fill in the blank, continuing on. We talked so much about the Bengals' strengths. We talked so much about their explosive offense, their MVP candidate in Joe Burrow at quarterback. But fill in the blank, the Cincinnati Bengals' biggest weakness is what? Fill in the blank. Jacob?
Well, we just talked about how good their secondary was for a while, so I'm not going to say their secondary because I truly do believe in how those pieces have trended so far this offseason. That would have been my answer at the beginning of the offseason. I'm going to go with the interior D-line. I have a lot of faith in Sheldon Rankins being a great pass rusher piece for that defense. I have a lot of faith in what Chris Jenkins is going to give us in the pass game as well, but I'm really worried about our ability to stop the run in the middle of that defense. I mean, McKinley Jackson and Jay Tufele are really the only two true nose tackles we have on the roster, and we ran a true nose tackle basically every single day, every single snap last year with DJ Reader, and none of those guys are even close to the level that DJ Reader was at. So I'm really worried about the defensive line, both the starters and the depth. We've seen injuries the whole way through, and I'll even extend it to the edge rushers. I think we're going to need either an Osai or a Miles Murphy to finally break out this year in order to, match some of those top teams with edge rush production. So I'm going to go with the whole D-line.
I'm going to go with the secondary. I know the secondary is taking strides to improve. I get it, but it's one of those seeing is believing type things. Last year I watched that Texans game, and it seemed like anywhere C.J. Stroud wanted to throw a ball downfield, somebody was down there to catch it, and they were wide open. So it's going to be important to me to see what happens at the start of the season, seeing if we're able to contain the deep ball, the long ball. I think the secondary has improved, no doubt about it. But until I see it, I'm not going to believe it.
I'm going to go the opposite side of the ball because I have those similar feelings that you two have shared. But I think running the ball, having an explosive run game is something that we've always struggled with. It's been kind of looked over because we've had other times where we've had an explosive offense throwing the ball. But this year I feel like you got to have a better run game this year. You have to have a more efficient run game. You can't rely on Joe Mixon to get 3 or 4 yards every time he touches the ball now. You're going to have to get more explosive there. And they've done everything they can up to this point, and all things reported, Chase Brown and Zach Moss, good. But until I see the offensive line kind of gel together in that department, that's going to be one of my concerns moving forward, explosive run game.
All right, continuing on. Do you have something to add to that?
Well, Reed said he thinks the Bengals' biggest weakness is in the chat. He said the Bengals' biggest weakness is trying too hard, caring too much, and playing too good. And
he took all my answers.
I think that's pretty much nail on the head there.
Yeah, I think he didn't miss one there.
Yeah, you get to the office too early, you stay too late.
Correct.
You watch too much film. Yeah, we need better family men. less time in the facility, more time. They care too much.
Too much.
That's
too
right.
much, as far as that's concerned. And we wrap it up here on the radio side of things. The last fill in the blank. We know how explosive and dominant the offensive side of the ball is for the Cincinnati Bengals. But what about the defensive side of the ball? For the Bengals to win a Super Bowl, the Bengals defense needs to be ranked what to win a Super Bowl?
Top 20?
That's my number.
Yeah,
I think top 20. I
20?
think top 20 gives you a chance.
Yeah, I think if the Bengals win Super Bowl this year, they have a 1, 2, or 3 offense in the league. So I'm going to say top 20. I'm not saying defenses aren't important. I'm not saying defenses don't win championships, but we saw a Bengals defense in 2020 or the Super Bowl year 2021 that wasn't that good in the regular season and then became the best defense in the world throughout a playoff run. So we have the pieces that can play well, and I'm not going to be, thinking we don't have a chance if we make the playoffs with, the 22nd ranked defense. It wouldn't be great. I'd like to have a top 10 defense, but I certainly don't think it's necessary with a healthy Joe Burrow, a healthy Jamar Chase, and a healthy everyone else. Just be better than last year. Don't put the team in bad spots, and I think we'll be good.
That's my answer. Top 20. As long as you're not the worst defense in the league, we're fine. Because the offense, again, I've already said it. Jacob said it last week. This team was built to have Joe Burrow, and the offense lap teams. I want to score 27 points a game. I want to score 28 points a game. If the defense is going to give up 35, then we have a problem. But if they're giving up a middle-of-the-pack number, even a back-end middle-of-the-pack number, the Bengals are going to be 100% fine, assuming our offense is healthy and ready to go.
Everett helped out. He said in 2021 the Bengals were 17th during the regular season in defense. And then obviously were incredible in the playoffs and got to a Super Bowl. So that's right around that 17 to 20 range. Don't think we have to be top 15. Can't be much lower than 20.
The only thing I care about defensively, as much as I would love to have some of those like personal accolades for the team, like sacks and whatnot, and being number one and stopping the run and things of that nature, I don't care about any of that. All I care about is how many points they're giving up per game. And if it's anywhere below 23 points a game, I'm happy with that.
Yep.
And that was the thing about the Bengals defense last year. I mean, as far as yards and between the 20s, they got decimated, but their red zone defense was one of the best in the NFL, and their points given up wasn't bad. I think it was close to 20. It wasn't a lot. They didn't give up a lot of points per game last year, but teams could throw the ball on them. They could run the ball on them, but they struggled scoring on the Bengals in the red zone. The other thing about the Bengals that's interesting too, and I think you're starting to see now, again, with this Jamar Chase thing, it's kind of interesting. It looks like they're going to financially prioritize investing into the offensive side of the ball. I don't think the Bengals will ever have, especially in the AFC North or just in the NFL, I don't think they're ever going to have the best defensive line. I don't think they're ever going to have the best secondary, the best linebacker crew. I think it's kind of what you guys have all been talking about. They're going to have an explosive offense at all times once they get this thing figured out with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, keeping them together, investing in that offensive line up front. They're going to invest into scoring a lot of points and just investing just enough to be average defensively. And I think they've had a good camp defensively. I don't think they're ever going to be the best defense in the NFL or top 5 in the NFL, but as you guys have kind of alluded to, if Joe Burrow plays the way he's expected to and the offense is clicking the way we've seen it throughout the Joe Burrow era, they don't have to be elite defensively as far as that's concerned. So as far as the radio side goes, that wraps it up for us on 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. This has been Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. All right, we welcome you back again as we close out. Just on the YouTube side of things, Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. So we just closed out the radio side with a little fill in the blank. And Casey, you had one more you wanted to add for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, I had one more. What the fill in the blank is, Bengals need to start what to win the North? What do they need to do to start off to win the North? What record?
You guys aren't going to like my answer, so I'll let you go first.
Jacob and Reed are not big beginning of the season guys, I don't think. So I think you have to take advantage of this easy schedule. I really do. I'll give you 2 losses. In those first couple of weeks there to the Chiefs and to the Ravens. Outside of that, I expect to beat the Panthers. I expect to beat the Patriots. I expect to beat the Giants. And I expect to beat the Commanders. I think we might win one of those games between the Chiefs and Ravens. I think there's 100% a chance, and we might fall to one of the NFC East teams. I don't think that's crazy. But if you don't start off with a 4-2 record, let me see.
You got the Patriots, Chiefs, Commanders, Panthers, Ravens, Giants for your first 6, Elliot.
If you don't start 4-2, there's a problem, a big problem. I think 3-3 is like, okay, I won't panic. If you have a losing record in the first 6 games, there's a serious issue.
If we go 2-4, I do not care.
If we go 2-4,
I don't
against 4 terrible teams,
I don't care. It doesn't matter.
That's crazy.
It literally
to me, man.
doesn't matter.
That's crazy to me.
It means you got to win 8 of your next 11 games, which this team can absolutely do.
How can you say they can win 8 of 11 if they're not going to beat the Panthers, Giants?
It's the NFL. The gap between good teams and bad teams is very, very small.
I get it.
There is no record. Anything this side of 0-6 in the first 6 games, I still have faith in this team if the guys are healthy.
The problem is what it sets up for the back end of the season. Like I get it. Like the Bengals, the reason that the slow starts have not been as big of a concern is just because the way, outside of health reasons, they've been able to overcome it. I mean, they get to a Super Bowl after a slow start. They get to the AFC Championship game after a slow start. But let's be clear, the Super Bowl, that slow start did not impact them at all. I mean, they obviously had to win some games on the road. They did that great. But that second year, The difference between the Bengals and Chiefs was where that game was played. And to me, that's why these September games matter. When you want to talk about, especially, obviously it's a long season, you want that home field advantage come playoff time. I completely get it. I know, we've seen them start out super slow, and then no one talks about that slow start once the playoffs get here, because once the playoffs start, they're a Super Bowl contender. But I think the difference between being able to, and I know they beat the Chiefs in Kansas City, doesn't mean you want to take that chance. Doesn't mean you want to play Kansas City at Kansas City. I think that these games do matter up front. Now, I know the fill in the blank is about winning the AFC North. Look, I agree with Elliott. 4-2, I think, is a very realistic start. You don't play a AFC North team until Week 6 with the Ravens, and then of course you got the Browns right after that. And there's a little gap before you get to the Steelers. I think 4-2 just for those first 6 weeks before your first AFC North game is important.
I get the sentiment. Mathematically, they can still go on the runs, and they have been doing that in the past several seasons. The Bengals start off slow, and they get hot, and they get really hot by the end of the season. But at some point, you have to take advantage of a very easy schedule. I mean, this is a very easy schedule.
It would make the run easier. But
it's a very easy schedule, and I hate the idea of banking on winning 8 of 11. I hate that idea.
I'm not banking on it, but the question is, what do they need to start to win the North? And they don't need to start any better than 2-4. 1-5.
What if you started 0-6?
Wouldn't be great, but you win the next 11.
Come
you're
on,
11-6.
you don't believe that.
You win the next 11. You're 11-6.
You don't believe that.
Well, to act like it's impossible is crazy.
If the Bengals start 0-6, losing to the Patriots, Chiefs, Commanders, Panthers, Ravens, Giants,
place the biggest bet on them to win the Super Bowl ever. At
come on, Jacob.
Yeah, if the boys are healthy, they got a chance. It doesn't matter.
There's no scenario where anybody should be okay with that.
What this 6-week stretch determines is whether or not the Bengals can have the 1 seed in the playoffs. It determines nothing else.
Well, the question is, what do the Bengals need to start to win
the North? Exactly, and that's why I think 2-4 keeps them still in play. I think 12 wins the North.
0-6?
Yeah, but they also play in the next rest of that stretch after the 6 games. They play the AFC North 5 more times, so you're expecting them to win most of those games.
Yes, if we go 2-4, we're going to have to win most of our games.
But yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is, I don't expect them to go 5-1 in the AFC North.
I don't expect them to go 2-4 in the first 6 weeks. But you asked what they need to start to win the North, and if they go 2-4, I still am confident they can win the North.
With a 5-1 record in the AFC North, roughly, is what you're.
Or 3-3. You don't need to dominate the North to win. I don't think they're going 2-4 in the first 4 weeks.
There's only one North team in those first 6 weeks.
Okay, so if they go 1-5, beating the one North team, then they're cooking. I just think it's ridiculous to diminish a Bengals season to 6 weeks. I think it's ridiculous.
The season isn't over, but it's like
if we go 2-4, you will say the season's over.
If we start
right or wrong,
if we start 0-6,
if we start I said 2-4. You said 0-6.
I know, but you also said 0-6 is fine.
I wouldn't care.
It's crazy. Yeah. If the Bengals start 2-4 and the 2 wins are the Chiefs and the Ravens, then fine. I'll say, you know what? Fine.
What if the 2 wins are the Panthers and the Patriots?
Then yeah, that does nothing for me.
Right.
I might as well not be winning anything.
Yeah, then I think that's a bad way to view football. I think the NFL. We saw 10-17 that barely snuck into the division championship.
How about not the first?
How
6
could you
games?
possibly believe they would be?
How about not the first 6 games, but the first 8 games? That includes the Browns and the Eagles in that conversation. What do they need to start then?
If we're 4-4 through 8 games, I'm not pressing a panic button.
Okay, that's much better.
If we're 3-5 through 8 games, I'm not pressing a panic button.
4-4 is fine.
Yeah, 4-4 in that stretch would be fine, but
if you're 3-5 through 8 games, I'm still not pressing a panic button.
It's just
you go 7-2 in 9 games, you're in the playoffs.
I don't know. This is where I get lost because I get what you're saying, and I know how these seasons have gone. They don't start off hot, really, ever. But if you're Everett kind of said it in the chat, if you're not going to start off hot against the Patriots, Commanders, Panthers, Giants, there's just never going to be a season
especially with Joe Burrow,
where this team's going to take advantage of that ever.
Especially with Joe Burrow being healthy throughout all of camp. There's no. If they start out 2-4, I think that's way more alarming because there's. I mean, again, I've been told Jamar Chase this isn't a concern. So if you start out 2-4, that's a huge concern because there's no reason to start out 2-4. There have been excuses or reasons in previous years. You're 2-4 to start this year. That's a problem because there's no excuses. Joe Burrow participated in all of camp. He's healthy. No Jamar Chase throughout most of camp, but you still got T. Higgins in this deep wide receiver room that I've been told about. So that's why it would be alarming. If they're 2-4 this season to start, that's more alarming than in previous years, just because they've had built-in excuses in years past. They don't this year.
Yeah,
I'm not. I agree. Like the idea that you can't go undefeated in today's NFL, which is 100% correct. It's very difficult. There's just not a wide margin of talent. The best team in the league is not that much better than the worst team in the league. There is a difference, certainly. So I don't expect the Bengals to go 6-0. I don't expect the Bengals to win 15 games this season. But at the same time, I expect them to beat at least most of the teams they're supposed to beat. And most of those teams are going to come in those first 8 weeks. A lot of them, or first 10 weeks. A lot of them do. So we'll see. I don't know. I'd like to be if they can beat the Raiders, the Patriots, the Panthers, one of the Commanders or Giants. I agree with Jacob. One of those I think will be a loss. Both of those are prime time, right? If one of those are a loss, I'm okay with. And then if you go 3-3 in the division, I can find a couple more wins between the Titans and the Broncos and the Chargers, yada, yada, yada. I think there's wins. I'm not saying you have to start 6-0. I'm not saying you have to start 5-1. But 4-2 is the number.
The question is to win the North. So you're looking at least you have to get 12 wins in the North, at least.
I don't think at least. I don't think anyone's finished with above 12 wins in the North.
Which means you have to at least get 12 to secure.
I think you could have 11 and win the North, potentially.
It depends, I guess, if they cannibalize each other. If the North cannibalizes each other, and the Steelers win 3, and everybody wins 3, everybody just splits again.
I don't think either the Steelers or the Browns are going to get ceiling of 10 wins, probably. And then if you think I don't think the Ravens are going to be the best team in the league, so take them to win anywhere from 10 to 12 games, and then you can win the division with 10, 11, 12 wins. That's why I'm not.
I should say 12. I shouldn't say you have to get 12. It's you secure the AFC North with 12.
100% agree. 100% agree.
But that means that you need to win your AFC North games. So
I'm not saying 2-4 in the first 6 weeks is acceptable or what I'm rooting for, or I would be excited, or I wouldn't be a little bit nervous about the future of the team. I wouldn't care about this season in a vacuum being able to still compete for the Super Bowl if we started 2-4. That's the point I'm trying to make, because when I look at the schedule, I don't look at the Panthers and the Patriots are easy games and the Chiefs and the Ravens are hard games. I will take the Bengals any Sunday against any team in the NFL. So I don't – the easy games, the hard games, I think if we lose to the Panthers, the Patriots, the Commanders, then we'll beat 3 good teams later in the season. I just have faith in this team that they have a pretty high floor.
Casey, to jump in on this too, we're looking at the schedule as a whole. The bottom line is we know the Ravens are going to win a lot of games. The Bengals are going to win a lot of games. The Browns will be in position to win a lot of games. It all depends on the QB. Yeah, so I say all this real quick just because, I think to start, the Bengals need to start 3-2 in AFC North play because 3 of the first 5 AFC North games are at home. And at the very worst split in the AFC North, and I think that's the rule for every team in the AFC North at this point, at the very worst split. So your first 5 AFC North games, 3 of the 5 are at home. You're going to win a lot of these regular season games outside of the division. I think the Browns and the Ravens will do the same. I'm not sold on the Steelers at this point. So I say all of that. We can talk about all the wins that the Bengals are going to get. There's other teams that are going to get a lot of wins as well. But those wins have to be at home in the AFC North. I think that the record against AFC North teams matters the most just because all these teams are going to be winning, but winning against one another is going to be the most important thing.
Bengals went 8-3 outside of the division last year. So you just have to keep dominating outside of the division, and then whatever happens, happens.
I guess you're right. I just at some point you can't always do the same thing every year and win 11 in a row. I guess that's like that in my mind. And they didn't do that last year, but when Burrow's been healthy, that's been the trend, is that they usually find a way to get hot there at the end. Personally, I think they need to go 3-3 at the worst. 2-4, I'm trying to figure out what teams I'd be okay with losing to at 2-4 and not be hitting a panic button. And you can't lose to the Patriots. You can't lose to the Panthers. And then the Commanders, Giants, I guess you could lose to in my mind, but I would feel really crappy.
The Giants? You're fine with losing to the Giants?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, like, I wouldn't be in just a normal head-to-head case, but if I'm trying to figure out what like losses I'm okay with, I guess it's those two. But those are both on primetime stages. Like, I don't know. I just feel
Commanders are interesting because that's like my the Commanders I have is like the Houston Texans of this season. That breakout, the rookie quarterback. They put some new pieces over there on both sides of the ball. I really like Washington. I don't think they'll be as explosive as the Texans last year. I think Washington's the team with Daniels that I have as my surprise Houston Texans type team. So that could be an interesting one. The Giants with Daniel Jones, man, oofa. If Daniel Jones-led offense finds a way to outscore score more points than a Joe Burrow-led offense, that'd be a problem. That's not good for the defense.
That's the same thing I would say about the Panthers and the Patriots.
I have that Giants game as a loss on my.
Really? What do you like about the Giants? I'm just questioning.
Not a whole lot more than it's our second primetime game in 3 weeks, and it's there, and you're coming off a high of beating the Commanders at home. And
you have Joe Burrow.
I understand that.
Jesus praise to Joe Burrow, and he can't beat the Giants in primetime?
No, I don't think the Bengals are going to win 14 games this year, and if I give them every game I think they're going to win, then you're at 15-16. So I got to find a couple I can talk myself into losses.
Well, I also think the season never goes as you plan it. And when I say 4-2, I'm penciling in losses to the Ravens and Chiefs, which I don't think will happen. So I think that other loss will come elsewhere.
You want me to predict that first 6 games? I think it's 4-2 with 2 losses to one of Chiefs Ravens and one of Commanders Giants. That's my prediction.
Fair. And hold on. So they play, and see that Washington, like the Washington game's interesting now. At least they're at home, but you have that big emotional game against Kansas City at Kansas City. You get up for that game, then you return home against Washington, which no one's buying into them. But that's why Washington catching Cincinnati early in the season.
It is Ring of Honor night, which I think might help the team just not have a fall off after the Chiefs game and everything. They do a good job with those, special event nights. The fans will be out. It'll be loud. First primetime game of the season. I mean, I saw that crowd for the first preseason game. Joe Burrow took one drive. It was jumping in there. So I can't imagine the first primetime game seeing this team back out there. Part of me wishes it was our first home game. Opening at home week 1 is pretty cool. But if you could have started it on the road week 1 and then come in week 3, first home game, home opener on primetime football, that would have been awesome.
What are they doing? Are they doing anything special for that Commanders game? I can't remember.
I don't believe so. White out is Eagles, orange out is Patriots, and then that's just Ring of Honor. What's
the stripe game?
Stripe game.
Is that the Ring of Honor game?
Maybe, possibly. I'm not sure.
Well, Elliot, the one thing I know, we will not talk Bengals until October.
That's right.
November?
November, probably.
Yeah, November, right? Because it's like an extended preseason, September and October.
That's right.
It just doesn't matter.
First 8 weeks, wash. 0-8.
David Bell talk for 2 more months, baby.
Oh, if they start 0-6, you would say the season's over, and everybody would too, because it would be over.
Well,
the season is officially over.
How would they get to that 0-6 is the question. Is Joe Burrow hurt?
Well,
if we go 0-6 with everyone healthy, then I'm just 11 in a row, and we're good. We're in the offs. We're winning the division.
This is silly.
It's pretty simple.
This is silly.
My brain can go over I want it to go.
What about 0-8?
0-8 would be tough, but Steelers made it at 9-8, so why can't we sneak in and make a little noise?
0-9.
0-9's tough because then you're below 500, and that's not getting you in the playoffs in the AFC. I don't think 9 wins is getting you in the playoffs.
But 0-17.
0-17 would be good because then you let T walk and you draft Luther Burden, and you have the best receiving core of all time.
You're the spin zone king, aren't you?
I can go all day.
You're just the spin zone king.
We're going to do a whole segment tomorrow on the Bengals' perspective records and how I make it a good thing.
Chatterbox Bengals by the first 2 months of the season does not matter. There you go. All right, good stuff today. Appreciate all you guys. Appreciate everyone in the chat. We'll do this again tomorrow. Until tomorrow, this has been Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers.